How's it going, everybody? So sometimes I don't know when I go live sometimes. I have to hit a live button over here, but there we go. Looks like I'm on. How's it going, everybody? Hope everybody's having an amazing day. Jesse looks a little different today. I'm wearing a plastic apron. I took all my aprons home and washed them, and then I forgot to bring one with me. Also, of course, I'm wearing my little paperboy hat today. Anyway, we got to give it a few minutes to let everybody jump on here. Looks like we already have quite a few eyes on the video, so fantastic. If somebody could give me what's happening, Nicole? How are you? Could somebody give me a sound check? Let me know that everything sounds good. I know you can see me because I can see myself, but I just need to know that you guys can hear me okay. What's happening, Sue? How are you? Diane Layton is back from Graham, Washington. How's it going? How's it going? You know what? I'm going to do a quick sound check on my end just to make sure that everything's okay. Let's see. Test, test, test. Yep. Looks like it's good. All right. So Kimberly says it sounds great. What's up, Joanne? Adam, good vibes. Absolutely. So we're on just a little bit early, and we're going to get going here pretty fast. Pretty soon we're going to jump right into it. So we will talk about our supplies and the process and things like that for any new people in just a little bit. In the meantime, say hello. Tell me where you're painting from. Let me know if you're celebrating anything today or tomorrow or yesterday, a birthday or whatever. Fantastic. Okay. Sounds like everybody's telling me that it sounds good. I haven't gotten my wireless mic yet. I've been planning on getting a wireless mic. Haven't gotten around to doing it yet, but pretty soon I'm going to be getting one, so I don't have to be messing with this long wired one that can be a little bit cumbersome, but it's all good. Lou Weaver, what's happening from Raleigh? Raleigh, what's happening? And then all the way from Melbourne, Australia, Alor Kim, or Kim Alor. Welcome, welcome. Daritri Sahu. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. From Texas. Oh, it's Arohi from Texas. What's happening all the way out in Texas? Hope you're having a fantastic time. Deborah Wellman from Escanaba, Michigan. So check this out, guys. I'm using a plastic disposable apron today. They make these. Sometimes I use these for my paint parties, my painting events where I have a large group. I'll take these and then we toss them at the end. Sometimes they come in handy, when you're kind of stuck in a bit of a pinch. You can go out and grab these. These are pretty good. I don't like them as much as the cloth ones, but I threw all of mine in the wash, or rather my wife threw them all in the wash. I have to be honest. She threw them all in the wash, and then I forgot to grab one on the way to the studio today. So Robin, Brienne, how's it going from Rimouski, Quebec? Rimouski or Rimouski? It's my birthday on the 29th, she says. What is that? 2 days from now? Or what's today? I don't even know what today is. Today is the what? Somebody tell me in the comments. What day is it today? It's either the 27th or the 28th. I do believe. Aaron DeBilo from Springfield, Oregon. How's it going, Aaron? And then Marissa Hernandez from Sacramento, California. What's happening, Marissa? Well, I hope everyone's having an amazing day. It is 3:01, so let's make this official. Hello, everyone. My name is Jesse. You're on my Painting with Jesse page, both on Facebook and on YouTube. I just want to welcome any new people that might be joining us today. If you are new, please let us know in the comments. Say, hey, Jesse, I'm new here, first timer, etc., etc. Today's video, like all of the other ones that we do on Painting with Jesse, will be available immediately after the live session is over. Okay? On Facebook and on YouTube, you'll be able to find it in the library of previous videos. Okay? As soon as it's over, you can go over and paint with the recorded session. If you're joining us on Facebook, you cannot forward or back up or pause, etc. You have to watch the whole thing as it happens live. On YouTube, for those of you that are interested in having a little bit more control with the process, On YouTube, you can pause, you can back it up, you can forward, etc., while we are live. Okay, just to give you guys that information there. Let's see, we have a first timer, Alor Kim. How's it going? Awesome. Welcome. Happy to have you. My pleasure. Let's see. Rimouski. Okay. It's Rimouski. All right, that's how you pronounce it, huh, Robin? Rimouski. Okay, cool. Good to know. I hope I remember that because that would be something cool to remember. But Rimouski. All right, cool. Don Wax. How's it going in Minnesota? Welcome back, Don. Marissa says, I'm new here also. Welcome to all of you new people. I really do appreciate all of you that are here. As I was saying, the video is being recorded and will be available on both platforms, Facebook and YouTube, as soon as this is over. YouTube, you can pause, back it up, etc., etc. On Facebook, you cannot. Okay, you have a few moments before we get started. If you wanted to have that control, you can jump over to YouTube on Painting with Jesse, just like the name on Facebook, Painting with Jesse. And you can have those options there. Really quickly, before we get moving, just want to let everybody know what's happening over the next few weeks, the next 3 weeks. Next week, we're going to be painting this really cool Mother's Day tulips painting. Okay, we got this on the schedule for next week, and I don't remember the exact day. I believe it's Thursday, maybe it's Tuesday. I'm not good with dates. My memory isn't so great, but sometime next week, we are painting this. Okay, so make sure if you guys are interested, you go check the event page on Facebook, Painting with Jesse out, and you'll see that. The week after that, we have this awesome hummingbird. Okay, this is a little bit more complicated, a little bit more going on. I will be teaching you how to draw it. I will be making a stencil available for that. I haven't yet. I'm a little bit behind on stuff. But if you go over to the event tab, drop down, you'll see this on there with all the details. And then 3 weeks from now, we've got this really cool sunflower and bees painting we're going to be doing. So same thing, if you're interested in that, go check out the event tab. And then lastly, these are the 4 events that are currently on the schedule. We're painting these turtles towards the end of the month, okay? End of May. So these are all happening. This one's next week, the week after that, and then we got this. Okay, for those of you that are interested in checking those out, hanging out with us on those days, that's what's in store. Okay, so please make sure you guys go check those out. All right, so what are we doing today? Of course, we're going to be painting this awesome little beach scene with dandelions, and we've got some hearts in the sand. We got the sun or the moon. It could be either one. Looks more like a sunset to me, but maybe for some of you, it's a moon. Okay, everything on here is optional, including colors. You can change things up however you'd like. I'm going to be showing you the steps on how to recreate this exact, maybe not exact, right? Really, really close to version. It's always difficult to get an exact replica of something that you're painting. I did paint this, I don't know, it's been about 3-4 years ago or so ago. It's been in my library that I use for my in-person paint parties. So I decided to do it this month. I think it's perfect given the weather. The colors that we're going to be using today. Let me use my little plate here, give you guys a close-up of my colors. I've got this darker blue. I'm going to be using this for the water, okay? And also for the sky, of course, I'll be mixing some white with it and maybe a little bit of lavender in there to create the colors that you see, the variations in the blue in the painting. Okay, so blue, white, got some yellow. I've got some burnt umber and then some raw umber. These are just 2 different colors, variations in brown. If you don't have a couple variations, don't worry about it. As long as you've got a type of brown, you're going to be okay. Whoops, got my colors are mixing over there. Got some black and I've got some lavender. Okay, black, lavender, blue, white, yellow, burnt umber, and raw umber. Just a couple variations of brown. It feels like I'm wearing a dress in this apron. So anyhow, those are the colors that I'm going to be using. Now, I like to use paper styrofoam plates. I know some people don't like them because of the impact they have on the environment. Sometimes I'll have paper plates, etc. Whatever you're using as a palette, I like to have an extra one where I mix colors on. So you want to have your color palette and then a surface where you're going to be mixing colors. So that's why I've got 2 plates there. I'm going to be painting on a 16 by 20 inch canvas. Okay, 16 by 20 inch canvas. Whatever you guys have The size of it can vary a bit. Some of you are going to have something smaller. Maybe some of you are painting with something larger. You'll just change your ratios a little bit. Okay. As far as the brushes that I'm using today, you don't need the exact version of these, but something similar will get you through just fine. Okay. I've got this 1-inch flat brush. Primarily going to be using this to create the backgrounds all the way through the entire painting. This is the big brush, the 1-inch flat brush. I like to use synthetic bristle brushes. Okay, this is the golden Taklon type. Okay, for those of you that are familiar with that, if not, don't worry about it. Whatever you've got is fine. 1-inch flat brush. Okay, next one down, I've got a 5-inch flat brush, basically similar version to the brush that I just showed you, just a much smaller version. This is good for making little details in the water, like the reflection, some of these little clouds in here. Okay, you could use something like this to create the stems for the dandelions. Okay, pretty versatile little brush there, but that's another brush that we're using. Okay, I've got a 3/8 inch angle brush. Okay, this is a brush that has a little point. Again, don't stress about it if you don't have these exact brushes. If you don't have an angle brush, you're okay. What I'd be using this for is I can also use this to make the stems. Okay, so as an alternative to the flat brush, I could use an angular brush for that, and that's a 3/8. Then I've got a number 3 flat brush, similar to the number 5 that I showed you a bit ago. This is good for detail work, the lines in the sand, just a small little square-headed brush. And then lastly, I've got 2 pointy little round brushes. Okay, they're not quite liner brushes. I sometimes refer to these as liner brushes, but they're actually round. They're round because they're round like this. If you look at them from the top, it's a round brush, but they're nice and pointy. They end in a nice little tip at the front. One's a number 3 and one is a 0. So this one looks more like a number 1 because it's a little larger than what most zeros look like, but that's okay. These are good for making the heads on the dandelion, all the little details. It's also good for the drawing when we get to the hearts. Okay, so that is my brush selection for today. Always, in between steps, I have a water cup. My brushes sit inside that water cup to keep the paint from drying on the brushes. That's how you protect your brushes. Okay, so I do have this water cup. Next to me, I've got some paper towels sitting next to me for messes. In between steps, sometimes I'll leave my brushes there, but then I quickly put them into my water cup. I also have now tin isn't necessarily the best way to do this because it does rust over time, but I've got a little tin container with some water in it, my good brushes, so that I protect my brushes, keep them from bending on me. In between steps, once I've used my rinse cup here, I transfer them over and put them inside here so they don't sit the whole time like this, putting weight on the bristles. I'll explain that a little bit more later. Nothing too important at the moment. All right, so let me look at any questions. Oh, one more thing. For those of you that want a more blended background, background's a little more blended than this, there are these really cool blending brushes. This is what you call a mop brush. Okay, mop brush. You could use this to blend your background really nicely. I understand that in makeup, there are very similar brushes. I think they're called blush brushes maybe for makeup. But these are excellent for creating some really nicely blended backgrounds, edges like in between colors and things. You can use these really nice ones to blend. Now, I won't be using this today, just to show you guys that in case you wanted a background that's a little bit more blended, you would use something like this. Okay, but all right, let's look at your questions really quickly to see what you guys got. It will, Kelly Morrison, it will turn out nicely. As long as you're paying attention, as long as you're following along, for the most part, everyone should be okay. If you're newer to painting, don't stress about it. I go pretty slowly, not super slow, but I do go slowly enough where I think most people can keep up in between. So I'll outline a step on my end, then I give you a little time to implement it on your canvas. We go that way through the entire on the entire process. In between steps, I will look at the comment sections, answer questions. I'll say hello to some of you guys that are, saying hello to me, etc., etc. We will be painting today for approximately 2.5 hours, maybe a little bit more. I'd say 2.5 hours to 2 hours and 45 minutes. If you can't paint for that long, don't worry about it. paint along for as long as you can. And then if you have to stop. Afterwards, you can come back and paint with the recorded session. All right, let's see. All right, Deb. Deb says, first time painting with you. Hello, will there be a replay? I think I just answered that. You probably asked your question right before you heard me say that. Absolutely. Replay will be available immediately afterwards on both Facebook and on YouTube. Okay, what's happening? Lou Gomez Art, how's it going? Art Gomez, maybe? I'm not sure. I know people like to put their names in different orders on Facebook. What's up, Gloria Marie? Yeah, it's going to be a good one. I like it. I like it. But here we go. Let's get moving, folks. Let's get moving. I showed you guys my palette already. My colors are spread out a little bit on my. This is primarily the color palette that I'm going to be using. If there's time, I do have some glitter colors, some glitter paint that I'll be adding to the piece. I'll give you guys a close-up of what that looks like on the actual painting in just a bit. But I've got some basic yellow. This is almost like a canary yellow. I've got some white. Titanium white is what this translates to. I've got some deep blue. Okay. This is my lavender. Got some black. I've got some raw umber, which is basically a deep brown. And then I've got a raw umber, which is a little bit more of a reddish brown. If you don't have a couple of different browns, don't worry about it. Whatever brown you have will be perfectly fine. Okay. Again, you can change things up on this painting however you'd like. First brush that I'm going to be starting with is this large 1-inch brush. Okay. We're going to start at the top and work our way down with the background. From the top down, we're going to create all these colors that you see. So I'm taking my lavender, just dipping my brush right into that lavender, scooping it up like this. My purple color is pretty easy to work with. It's pretty flowy. It flows quite well. Okay, so I don't need to mix any water with it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. Now I don't need a lot of paint. I'm not making this very thick. I probably scooped up more paint than I need. So let me put some back on my plate. What I want to do is I want to make this kind of a pretty thin layer of paint. Okay, I want to get full coverage on most of the white, all the white I should say, on the canvas, but I want to spread the paint. What this does by me spreading it like this, I'm going to get some slight variations of intensity, color intensity in there. Some areas are going to be slightly lighter than others, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. Now, the color that I'm using here is a little bit lighter than what I used on the original. On the original, I have a little bit of a deeper lavender, almost purple, but that's okay. If you do have a deeper purple, then simply maybe add in a little bit of that with your lavender if you've got lavender, but just some kind of purple up there is what you're looking for. Again, if you want the same type of colors that I've got here on the original. And this on my 16 by 20 inch canvas is probably about 1.5 inches wide from top to bottom, 1.5 inches from top to bottom. What I do like to do is I like to paint my edges on my canvases. For those of you that are painting on a canvas, I know some of you are painting on maybe some of those canvas boards that are really thin, or you're painting on a wood board or mixed media paper. Some of you like to do this like on an art journal, basically a mixed media pad where you have pages in there, and that's all good. But if you have a canvas, make sure you get your edges. Some people like to leave their edges white, so anything is okay. All right. So work on that for about a minute or two before we move on to the next step. Now, because I'm using a really thin layer of paint, so here's what I'm doing. As soon as I'm done using my brush, I'm going to be using this brush again in a moment. So I take this, but I do take this and put it in my water cup. Okay, I put that in my water cup and let it sit for a little bit so that while I'm waiting for you folks to catch up, I let it sit in my water cup so that paint does not dry on the brush. Okay. But anyway, I think I lost my train of thought. I was going to say something. I lost my train of thought, but all good. What's up, Pamage from Florida? Welcome back. Jocelyn Matson. Yes, my brush is dry. Perfect. Glad. I think I addressed that right before. Fantastic. Scarlett says, not quite new to painting. I've been painting for a year now, so I can't wait to see how this one turns out. Awesome. 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 So everybody, of course, all levels of painting experience are welcome. Okay, all levels are welcome here. Obviously, if you've got some painting experience, it helps quite a bit. But if you're new, if it's really new to painting, or if it's your first time painting, please don't stress out. Have a good time with it. Relax. And I just noticed that I did not change my my background. Let me see if I can do that while you guys. Actually, I'll do it in the next. I'll do it on the next. After the next step. I still have the background from when I did the gnome last week. So last week, for those of you that might not have been here, we did this awesome little gnome. Oh, let me change my screen. I'm going to change my screen also in just a moment. We did this awesome gnome, little spring gnome. And the video is still available for those of you that would like to go and catch that. Okay, if you go to the, on my Painting with Jesse page on Facebook, if you go to the live tab at the top, you'll find all of the old sessions that we've done. I probably have, I think I'm closing in on maybe 95 now. So you can go back and check that out if you're interested. Anyway, all right, let's continue here. So same brush. What I'm doing is I'm going to do this. I've got some lavender on the brush still, okay? And it was in my water cup, and I don't really want too much water in my paint. I don't want it runny. I'm going to take some of my lavender. I'm going to use my mix plate, the extra plate that you saw me show you earlier. I'm just going to scoop up. I don't need that much. Again, a lot less than that. I'm going to start with a little bit of lavender. I'm going to bring that over to, let me also raise the neck on my easel here. Give me a second while I adjust this. So I'm going to take a little bit of my lavender. I bring it over to my plate. Had some eraser shavings on there. Okay. Now I'm going to grab some of my blue, some of my deep blue here. I'm going to scoop up a little bit. Again, don't need a lot. Using my same 1-inch brush, I'm going to mix those two colors together, creating kind of a light, almost, there's a little bit of a, what kind of color would this be? Almost like a baby blue. Now I'm going to take a little bit of white. Okay, so again, lavender, blue, and some white. I'm going to introduce a little bit of white. Same brush. Scoop up my white here. Bring it over. Okay, and I do this. Now this is a little too light than what I want. So I'm going to add a little bit more blue and a little bit more lavender. I want a color that looks kind of like this. It's a color right in between this lavender and this blue that I've got. So I'm just scooping up a little bit of each. There's some lavender I just put in there, and I'm going to grab a little bit more blue. Now, I don't have to have that exact color, but I do want something close to it. I like the way it looks on my canvas. Yeah, it's almost like a powder blue. I don't know what you'd call this color, but it's really nice little color. There we go. I'm getting there. A little more lavender. Now, on this next step, when I mix that in, I want to leave my paint a little bit swirly, so I can see a little bit of lavender. I see a little bit of the darker blue, and then I see some in between colors in there. Once I've got the color that I want, I'm going to go ahead and now I'm not going to start right on the edge where that lavender line ends. I'm going to come down a little bit, down in here. Now I'm going to spread this paint out a little bit. Now, before I move up and get close and I start moving up towards my lavender layer above, I'm going to use up a lot of the paint on my brush. Once I've used up a lot of the paint, now I can start moving up. I can start moving upwards. I want my brush to be fairly dry by the time I get up there. Okay, give me a sec. I still got lots of paint on my brush, so I feel it. I can feel when I start to use up most of the paint on the brush. I can feel it, right? You can feel it because you can see how much paint is spreading on your canvas. Once my brush is pretty clean of paint, now I start bringing it up and I start approaching the pink area above, the lavender area above. Then by the time I get to the edge, the idea is anyway, that by the time the edges start to touch, I have very little paint on my brush. And so what happens is you start to blend a little bit of blue paint that's left on the brush with that lavender above. And that's one way to blend two colors together. Even if the background is still a little bit wet, the lavender, or if it's dry, this will work either way. So again, wait till your brush is almost completely free of the paint. Almost completely, you've used up most of the paint, and then bring it up and and then you slightly overlap. You come up and go up a little bit higher than that lavender edge so the two colors blend. Okay, so next thing, then you want to bring your line down a little bit. Now, how much you bring your blue down is up to you. We do have this white and yellow layer that comes in between that bluish purple color and the ocean horizon line. So, but I'm going to bring my line down a little bit lower on my 16 by 20 inch canvas. This is probably, I don't know, maybe between a third and a fourth, somewhere in there. It's not quite a third, because if I do this, I got 1, 2, 3, and then a little bit left over. So a little less than a third. But again, just don't stress too much about that. You don't have to start measuring anything. Simply know that that's about where that is on my 16 by 20 inch canvas. If yours is a little bit more or a little bit less, it's not going to change much. So now that I did the front part of my canvas, I'm going to go and do my edge here. Okay, there we go. Just going to take a few more swirly, pick up a little bit of swirly paint, adding a little bit of blue and a little bit of lavender in here, just a little bit. And I'm going to just come in and add a few little accents here and there in my paint. Again, nice and swirly. In this case, I'm going to use my brush like this sideways. And I'm just kind of let there be some randomness to this. Just going to streak it a bit. Pick up a little bit more lavender. Okay. Just blend it in a little. There we go. All right. So take about a minute or two on that. Okay, let me look at your comments and questions, see what you guys got. Jill from South Florida, how's it going? How are you? Patricia Sharon, South Carolina, I think is what you're saying, by SC. Welcome. Samara Stover from Indiana. Welcome, welcome. Lisa Guarino, how's it going, Lisa? Welcome back. Glad to have you as always. And then we got Samara Stover from India. Oh, wait, Indiana. I thought I just said your name, and wait a minute, I thought it was Indiana. All right. Sometimes I do get people from India painting with us. It's pretty cool. And we got Danang. How's it going? Charity, I think it's Charity Danang, watching from the Philippines. Need this for my art teaching. Awesome, Charity. Thank you for being here. Lynn Pritchett. Hi, Lynn. Glad to have you. Happy you're here. All right. So here we go. Again, don't forget your edges if you're planning on doing your edges, especially whenever you've mixed a color. You want to use it while you still have it, right? While it's still available to you. If you forget your edges and we move on, and then you got to go, oh, dang, I got to go back and do my edges. Now you might have to remix your color if it's dry, if it's dried on you. So, all right, let's continue. Same brush. So again, I'm using my rinse cup here. Just going to swirl my brush in there a little bit. I do want to clean it up pretty well. I'm going to use it with some white and some yellow. And I don't want any of that blue to mix in, or at least I want to avoid having any of that blue mix in, because it'll turn my background green instead of yellow. So I've swirled my brush around in my water cup. I'm just going to take this paper towel and squeeze out any of that extra paint in there, any extra wet paint. Okay, just clean it up, squeeze out. So these are decent brushes that I'm using. They're not my special or favorite brushes, but they're pretty good. I can beat them up a little bit. I don't have to worry about it as much. So I can abuse them a little. But all right, so there's my brush. Still using my mix plate here. I'm going to grab some white. Okay, remember we got some white and some yellow. I'm going to scoop up some white. Okay, I'm going to grab some white, probably about that much. Okay, bring it over to a spot on my plate. Now I'm going to do the same thing with my yellow. I'm going to grab some yellow. I don't need a lot with the yellow yet. Okay, so I'm going to create kind of a creamy yellow color. It's an off, almost, I don't know exactly what you would describe this color as, but it's a really soft yellow. Okay, now I'm going to add a little more white to that. Okay, a little bit more white. And again, I want this swirly. I don't want a perfect solid blend. I want it nice and swirly. I want to see some white, some yellow in there. Okay, but it is a relatively light color. Once I've got that, I'm going to do the same thing that I did earlier. And I got a little spot that dripped on my canvas earlier. That's all right. I got a couple of them. I'm not worried about those. I'm going to start down in here. And watch how I'm holding this brush. This is a medium handled brush. Okay, I hold it back here. I don't have to be super precise with this. This is a loose type of painting style that we're doing right now. And I just kind of use this paint. Again, I spread it out on my canvas. And just like what we did earlier, not a lot though. I'm not going to blend this a lot. This yellow and blue combo could turn a little bit greenish, so I don't want to bring a lot of this up into the blue area too much. I mean, you could, and it would make a cool little color, but starting down at the bottom, I start to bring the paint upwards. Once I can gauge that I've got a little bit of paint left on the brush, I'm going to start bringing this upwards. And I spread the little paint that's left onto the canvas and then upwards so that the edges meet. And then I'll go slightly, just a little bit of overlap. Okay, not a lot, little tiny bit. By now, my blue down here, the blue at the edge is pretty dry. So I'm not too worried about the colors mixing too much, but I still would get a little bit of green. If I do too much of this, I'll start to see a little green tint. So I'm going to leave it at about like that. Let me give you a close-up. Actually, I didn't get too much green there. I did overlap the blue and the that creamy yellow quite a bit, and I didn't get much green there. So that's good. Okay, so you do that. Don't forget your edges. We're going to add a little bit more yellow to this combo in just a moment. But let's do our edges. Can't forget the edges. Okay, just like that. Now I'm going to grab a little bit more yellow. Just going to dip my brush right into that yellow. Bring it over to my plate, my mixed plate. I'm going to put it over to the side first. And then I'm going to take a little section over here where just a little area where I blend the two colors together. Oop, got some water dripping down. Don't worry, I got a floor covering that protects my carpet. Got old carpet in the studio, but that's okay. I don't want it all kinds of different colors. Let it be the ugly green that's on there now. Okay, so down here, I'm just going to bring this deeper yellow. Just going to create a little edge down here. So right below this is where my blue water horizon line is going to be. So once I've got that horizon line, now I can bring some of this yellow upwards. A little bit more yellow, just scooped up a little more yellow for my palette. Bring that up. Oh, I promised I'd give you guys a close-up of the glitter on the original, so give me a moment and I'll do that in just a bit. All right, a little bit of orange, a little bit of yellow, just blending it in here. There's no precise here. I'm not sitting here going, oh, this has to be exactly 1.5 inches, or it's, it can vary a little bit from one side to the other. But all right, so on my original, I got a little bit of glitter on it that I know is a little hard to see from a distance. But in the water, I'm sure you can see a little bit of that sparkliness in there. Got some light blue in there, and then I got some gold up here in the sky. I think the gold might be a little harder to see. I got some pearl glitter inside the dandelions. It's really cool pearl glitter or crystal in there. And then in the sky, I have a little bit of purple. Little bit of purple up there. I'm not sure you can all see it, but anyway, just so you guys know. At the end, I will bring out my glitter paints and we'll accentuate our painting a little bit. Okay. All right. Take about a minute on that. Did I not bring that yellow over to the edge? I did not. Just going to bring a little bit of this yellow over to my edges as well. Just again, just to kind of keep things matching. Not necessary, but you guys get the idea. All right. What are you guys saying in the comments? Let's see. Kimberly Diane, hi from Ontario, Canada. What's happening, Kimberly? Hope you're doing great today. Alexandra Soto. How's it going, Alexandra? From Manassas Park, Virginia. My first time painting. Awesome, Alexandra. Thank you for being here. Bianca Silva from Puerto Rico. What's up, Bianca? Is it Bianca or Blanca? Sorry, I think I need my glasses. Blanca. Hi, Blanca. I need my glasses, folks. I need my glasses. All right, everybody. So take a little bit. Take a little bit. Oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to change my background. See if I can do it while you guys are still on here with me without messing things up. Bear with me a moment. I'm not saying this background's going to be any better than the gnomes that I've got on there, but they're a little bit. I made it earlier, so I might as well use it. Come on. Almost there. Well, not quite. All right. Okay, hold on. Almost there, I promise. Whoops, that's not it. Yes, delete that overlay. Delete that one too. Yes. Add. Almost there, folks. It's going to be like a magical moment. Everybody's going to go, what? Oh my goodness. Jesse, it was worth the wait. There we go. All right, cool. Happy with that. Cindy DeSoto watching from Pico Rivera, California. What's happening, Cindy? Hold on, what's going on here? Upload background. Okay. All right. Here we go. So next step. On this next step, we're still using this 1-inch brush. This 1-inch brush is getting a lot of use. I know some of you guys have a different brush that you're using. No big deal. I'm just cleaning it up a little bit. Okay. Taking my rinse cup, cleaning it up. Okay. Taking my paper towel, squeezing out some of that extra water there. Okay. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a color for our ocean, for our water. I'm going to take some of my deep blue. Okay. I'm going to take some of this deep blue. I'm going to grab it and I'm going to bring it over to my mix plate. Whoops. That almost fell on the ground. All right. So don't need a lot of this blue just yet. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit of white to this. I can also take this color that's in here and mix it, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take a little bit of white. I want a slightly lighter version than what I've got currently for that deep blue. Okay, so white, bring it over. I'm going to mix the two together. Now, there's no perfect on this, folks. I don't want you looking at your screens going, what color is that? And how do I get it exactly like Jesse? As long as you've got some variation in your water, it's going to look like water. And that's what we're trying to get at. Okay, but just mixing some blue and some white together. I don't want this to be super light. It's probably, so on my painting there, it's probably the lightest blue that you see in here. Probably the lightest blue. Okay, so here, once I've got my color, I'm going to come in here. I'm going to do two things. I'm going to go ahead and do right across using the skinny edge of my brush, create my horizon line for my water. Now, I'm not worried right now about going around my edges, going to the edges of the canvas. I want this to be nice and straight. Okay, right? Not super perfect straight, pretty level. Okay, something like that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down where my beach is, the edge where the water and the sand meet. Kind of down here. This is probably, if I got 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 1/5 of the bottom of my canvas is where the sand is. So 1, 2, 3, 4, a little less than 1/5, or a little more than 1/5. I'm sorry, but doesn't really matter too much, like I said. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make this a little bit curved. My beach curves a little bit. It can be subtle. It can be more obvious than that. But once I've got that, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to spread this. Now, right now I'm using mostly the broad part, the broad part of the brush. So I'm not using the skinny edge like this. I'm using the broad edge of this brush. And again, I spread this paint kind of thin. I want to stretch the paint out, spread it nicely. And again, notice this is a nice, loose painting method. I'm holding the brush towards the back of the handle. This isn't super precision, or you don't need that kind of a detail right now. Just go through. Right here along my beach line, I do turn it over a little bit so that I'm painting with the edge just so I have a little more control. But other than that, I'm going to bring my beach line a little bit more like that, just a bit. I want a little bit more of a curvature in there. Okay, and again, this is streaky, kind of like what the sky looked like. It's streaky. I can see lines in it. The paint mixture isn't fully blended, which is a technique you use to create variation in your color. And then, of course, I come over to my edges, paint one side, and then I paint the other side. So this is about having fun. I know a lot of you are in here, because you want to learn a little bit and you want to create something nice that you can hang on your walls or give away as a gift. All good, but rule number one is you have some fun. Okay, enjoy the process. The more you relax, usually, from what I've seen in my years of painting and teaching, the more you relax, the better the outcome, usually. Okay, it doesn't mean you just completely not care what it turns out like, but just relax during your process. Okay, so I've got my water completely covered. I'm going to take my brush and I'm just going to do this to I'm going to take my paper towel and do this with my brush where I take off most of the blue. Now I'm going to grab some of the deep blue. Okay, just blue. Now, this isn't we are going to work some more on our water later. Okay, right now, though, I'm coming in and adding some darker areas in the water. We're going to layer this a little bit, and once it's dry, we're going to come back and add some more layers to this. But for now, just give me some little areas of darker blue in there. Whoops, I grabbed a little bit of yellow in there. No big deal. Grabbed a little bit of yellow in my picked it up with my brush. No big deal. Just gonna take a paper towel and wipe that right off. Now I'll come back, grab some more of my original lighter blue mixture and touch that up. And away we go. Done. Okay. But back to my blue. So scoop up some of my blue, dark blue. Come in here and again, find some areas in the water that you want to have a little darker and add some of these streaks in there. Again, I'm using the edge of my brush for now, mostly. It's going to blend a little bit with the wet background that's currently on there with the lighter blue, so it's not going to be super deep blue at the moment. Don't worry about that too much. Put your layer down and we move on. Watch how I hold my brush. If you mimic it, you're going to get some similar results as long as you've got some similar brushes. This is a light touch. I'm just barely feathering the paint onto the canvas. If that doesn't work for you, then press a little harder, but you don't want to remove the paint beneath. Okay, something like that. Again, we're going to be layering over this later. Once it dries, we'll come back and work on it some more. But as you can see, it's already starting to look like water, right? There's movement in this water. There's light reflecting on the waves. So you're seeing these different changes in the color as the water moves. Okay, there we go. And you don't have to do this to the sides. This that I just did right now with this deeper blue, you don't have to add this to the sides. It's up to you if you want, but you can if you'd like. All right, there we go. So take a moment on that. My brush goes back in my water cup in the meantime. All right. Cindy DeSoto, recovering from shoulder surgery, not able to paint. Good luck on that, Cindy. Hopefully you recover quickly so you can get back to painting. Okay, and all the other things that that you can do with two arms. Let's see, just joining in, Jesse made homemade tacos first. Ooh, Carolyn, can you send some over here? Can you virtually send some of those over to me? That would be fantastic. You could send them to me via Messenger. Wouldn't that be cool? That would be awesome. We could all share food with each other. Margie Peressa says, went to the beach yesterday. It will be nice to paint this later. Awesome, Margie. Absolutely. Let's see, June Mutu Reese says, hello from Alberta, Canada. Welcome, June, and all my Canadian friends that are hanging out today with us painting. Kimberly Diane says, I'm watching and painting later, making dinner for the family as I watch. Awesome. Yeah, you know, one of the things that I notice people like to do, they like to watch, you know, the live and kind of they get a sense of what's going to happen. Excuse me. And then later on, once they've got a feel for it, like, oh, okay, I can do that. Second time they come back and then they paint, they actually do it. So pretty cool. I think, yeah, Carolyn, I think we got Gloria Marie also asking for some of those tacos. So if you could, just messenger, send them out. I'll reach out and grab them here in a little bit as soon as they come in. But all right, so here we go. The next step, we're going to go ahead and work on the sand the little sand in our painting. And the sand is a mixture of yellow and burnt umber and maybe a little touch of white. We'll see. It just depends on what color you get. Depends on your brown, depends on your yellow. Okay, so that's what we're gearing up to next. Hey, Taco Tuesday. That's right, Gloria. Today is Taco Tuesday. That is correct. It is Tuesday, right? I could use some tacos. Not going to lie. All right, I'm going to take my brush. I'm going to clean it up, just swirling it around in my little cup here, taking out as much of that blue that we just used as we can. Again, in this case, it's pretty critical that we do that because otherwise we'll get some green sand. And I don't know about you, and I mean, that could work. You could be on a beach with green sand, I suppose. But for our purposes today, at least for my painting, I want a nice yellow-brown sandy beach. So again, using my paper towel, once I've cleaned up my brush quite a bit, I'm going to use a paper towel to remove any excess paint. Okay, we also don't want it drippy, so you want to make sure you remove a lot of that water. And hang on one second, everybody. Let me grab I'm going to cross in front of the camera here for a moment. I'm going to grab me a plate. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're going to start with some yellow. Got an extra plate over here. I'm going to start with some yellow. Just going to scoop up my yellow here. bring it over to my mix plate. Find a little spot there. Okay, bring some of that over. Now, I mentioned burnt umber. If you don't have it, no big deal. If I said raw umber for this step, I apologize. Raw umber will work too, but the burnt umber is a little bit more of a reddish color, and that will give you a little bit of that reddish, slightly reddish tint. You won't really notice it unless you're comparing it to regular brown. So I'm just taking a little bit of my burnt umber. Whatever brown you have is perfectly fine. So don't stress if you don't have this. Then I'm going to mix the two. Okay, I want this streaky, a little bit streaky. And then so as I mix it, I can gauge on here, on my plate, what that color is going to look like. I want it a little bit lighter and a little bit less yellow. So I'm going to take some white now. Mix the two together. Very little white though, very little. And again, I want this kind of streaky, so I don't want to blend my colors completely. You could create a color that's completely blended, one solid color, and use that as your base, and then paint streaks over it later. But why would we do that when we can do it this way? You could. There's just different ways to approach this. Okay, there's different ways to approach paintings. Different paths to the same outcome. So I've got my paint color right here. What am I going to do? I'm going to come through here like this. I'm going to go ahead and just, whoops, sorry. You know what? I'm not going to connect. I'm not going to go that high. Let me clean that up a little bit. I want that a slightly lighter color. So bear with me a moment. Just taking a little paper towel with a little bit of water on here. Just going to remove most of this paint. Got a little bit ahead of myself, sometimes happens. There we go. So back to my mixture. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come down a little bit, down in here. Okay. And from there downwards, now I'm using the edge of my brush, skinny edge. I'm not using the broad side of my brush, and I'm just doing these streaks. This combination of streaks, and again, watch how I'm doing this. Now I am putting quite a bit of pressure on the canvas. Now my canvas has a little bend in it here. I accidentally hit it against something, and I bent it. It's okay. The combination of this short, kind of streaky action and the swirly paint is going to give me the lines that I'm looking for. I want these lines in my sand. Now the other thing that I'm doing, it's actually kind of a curved motion. Hopefully this makes sense. So imagine the canvas is here. What I'm doing with my brush is I'm going like this. As I get to the edges of the line that I'm creating, every line that I create, as I get to the edge, I lift my brush up and pull away at the same time, almost like a pendulum. That helps make the lines thinner on the edges. Okay, it's almost like, again, pendulum strokes. It makes it so that the lines get skinnier. They're broader at the base, broader towards the middle, and then they get skinnier, pointier on the edges. A little too high there. Oops, and I got a little bit of blue in there from before. Let me see if I can remove it. Not crucial. I can always cover it up. I'm taking there we go. Got that. Got it out of there. Using a little bit of water on my paper towel. That blue's gone. Got rid of it just like that. So I'm continue with my streaky lines. Pendulum style. If your color's a little darker than mine, if it's a little lighter than mine, don't stress too much. As long as it looks like a color of sand, there's really light sand, there's dark sand. I've seen whenever I do a painting, I often will go and look, for reference pictures of stuff so that I know what colors I'm going to be using. And there's all sorts of different colors of beaches throughout the world. This one happens to be a little bit of a sandy, yellowish kind of brown. It's also later at night or later in the afternoon, maybe sunset, giving the sand a little bit of a darker feel to it. And again, watch the quick action on my brushes. Just kind of nice and loose. Should be relaxed. I'm going to use this paint to come around the edge. I don't have to streak it on the edges. I'm not stressing about that. Just painting it, just painting the edges to match. Now, I'm not doing the very bottom edge on my canvas till the very end. If I do it now, it's going to glue to my easel. If you're on a table, or your canvas is laying flat, then go ahead and do your bottom edge when you do this also. Okay, but there we go. So, got this in there. Now, this is a little bit streakier. This one's a little streakier than this one. The streaks are more obvious. We can always add streaks to this later. I'm not too worried about that. This works just fine. Okay, but what I am going to do now is I'm going to take a little bit more white. Got to be careful I don't grab any of that blue that's in there. So a little bit more white. My paint plate is becoming a bit of a mess. So I'm going to bring some of this over, mix it with that color that I've got on here. Now this color I want a little bit more blended, more even in tone, but I do want a lighter version. Whatever we've got in here, I'm just creating a lighter version of it. Then I'm going to use the color right here on that edge that I left white earlier. I'm just going to come in here. This is where the water and the sand meet. Smaller pebbles. Little bit of a lighter, maybe there's a little bit of foam, water foam mixing in. Something like that. And you notice I'm kind of following the curvature of my water line. Then just coming over to the edge and adding it there too. Nice and easy. All right, take a few moments on that. Patricia Sharon says, white sand in South Carolina. You need to visit. You know what? I'm trying to remember. I went to the beach in Virginia. West Virginia, if I remember correctly. It's been a few years now. And maybe there aren't any beaches in West Virginia. I'm just remembering wrong. But I was, and they had some pretty light beaches. Very few waves though. Not a lot of waves if I remember correctly. So I wonder if they're similar in South Carolina. But I'll go check them out. I'd love to go check those out. Let's see here. All right, guys, take a few moments there while you guys are, let me check something here. All right. So how's everyone doing? Hope you're all having an amazing time. I know that I am. These are always fun for me. So I like to hang out and paint with all of you, everybody that comes out and joins. If you are on Facebook or YouTube, especially if it's your first time, please, I would really appreciate a follow and a like. You know, it helps the algorithm on both of the platforms. That would be fantastic. Also, if you're on YouTube, please leave me a comment. Please leave a comment in the comment section. Again, the activity helps YouTube promote my videos. There's a lot of competition on YouTube, so it would really be great if you guys could do that for me. It'd be fantastic. So a couple more minutes. For those of you that might have jumped on a little bit late, don't forget, next week, I'm going to go ahead and blow up or increase the size of that main picture. Next week, pre-Mother's Day, this is what we're painting. Okay, this little tulips piece. Okay, right here. Teaching you guys everything from scratch. The week after that, we're painting this glittery hummingbird. This has a lot of glitter on it also. Lots of glitter. Glittery hummingbird. Teach you how to draw that completely from scratch. I will be making a stencil available. I know I promised that sometime last week. I've been super busy, haven't had a chance to make that, but that's coming. Hopefully tonight, if not tomorrow, but no later than tomorrow. Okay, I promise you that. So stencil, I'll be providing a stencil for that, but I'll be teaching you how to draw it freehand. And then the week after that, sunflowers and bees, little sunflowers and bees. Okay, I'm not sure that I'm going to be providing a stencil for this one yet. I think, I don't remember. I got to look at the details. What I put down in the details, I might have promised a stencil. We'll see. Then the week after that, 4 weeks from today, we got this awesome little turtle scene. A lot of turtle lovers out there. So those are the events for the next 4 weeks. Okay. So, and I do apologize if you're hearing some noises in the background. The phone, I forgot to put my phone on silent mode. And so you might be hearing some vibrating and stuff like that. Okay. But all right, here we go. Okay. So we've got all of the backgrounds in place, the main parts of those backgrounds anyway. Let me switch my view back so that, there we go. We have the majority of the background. What we're going to do right now is we're going to come in and add a few little minor details to the sky. We're going to start adding some details to the water a little bit after that. And then come the dandelions and the sun and everything else. But for now, these little areas in here, these little cloudy things in the background is what we're going to start with. Now, I'm going to use a little bit of lavender for mine, a little bit of lavender and yellow. I'm going to mix the two. Now I'm switching brushes. I'm going to be using this number 5 flat brush, very small, maybe about 1/2 inch in thickness. Of course, small, thin, flat edge at the top. On one of my mix plates, actually the one that I was just using, I'm going to grab some lavender. Okay, just grab a little bit of this lavender. Don't need a lot. I'm going to bring that over and I'm going to do this. Before I do anything else, I'm going to come in here. Now this background is nice and dry. I can come in here, a few little streaks, just play with this a little bit. Very little paint on my brush. I spread that nicely. Just giving my background some variation. Okay, next thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to grab, now what I'm going to do, before I do what I was about to do, I'm going to take a little step back. Actually, you know what? I'm fine with it. I was going to add more yellow in here, but I think I'm okay with that. I don't need more yellow in my background. So going back to what I was thinking. My lavender, I'm going to grab a little bit of yellow. Okay, I'm going to mix the two together. It's going to give me kind of a slight, almost lavender orangish color. It's a really subtle change, but there's a little bit of orange in there. Once I have that mixture, a little bit of paint on my brush, I'm going to be using the tip of the bristles, just the point. Okay, right in here where the two colors meet, I'm going to start here. What I'm going to do is I'm touching the canvas, and again, just the point of these bristles. I'm going to come in here and I'm touching the canvas and swirling little tiny swirls at the same time. Not trying to create super detailed clouds, but this is kind of like a little cloud off in the distance, just kind of floating by right across my edge here. I'll give you guys a close-up in a moment. And this cloud can be as big or as small as I'd like, but I don't want it to be too prominent in that background. No water. I didn't add any water to the brush or to the mixture or anything like that. Again, I'm just coming in here and putting some slight pressure. The paint isn't very thick. Okay. And again, I don't want a lot of detail on that cloud. I just want a nice, subtle little cloud. But you don't want to make the mistake of adding a lot of paint to your brush. It's actually better to start with very little paint, and you'll feel it as you start to add your little clouds up there. It doesn't feel like you've got enough paint on your brush. Take a little bit more paint at a time and then try it again. If you overload your brush too much, you're going to get gobs of paint on there, which will still work. You can spread that. You can spread it out and get the same effect, but you're going to create a bigger cloud that way. Okay, but again, the trick is, and I'll show you on the plate. So close up, I'm using the tip of those bristles, the point, and I just kind of do this, little swirls. Okay, what it does is it unevenly and randomly spreads the paint around the canvas. Those variations in thickness or levels of paint that you're creating with those little swirls are going to give you some transparent values in there that you'll use to in your favor, right? To create when you're creating these little clouds. So I'm going to make another one right in here. Again, swirly action. Maybe don't, if you're new to this type of painting, or, you know, this way of creating these little clouds that are off in the distance, maybe practice on your plate or on a scratch canvas, etc. Okay, press down a little bit on your brush. This works best when your brush is kind of, the bristles are a little stiffer. These golden Taklon or the white Taklon, those are good for this. The hog's hair bristle brushes will also work. Now I'm going to grab a little bit more lavender, just grabbing a little bit of lavender here in my brush. And I'm just going to come in here and let that kind of blend in with that orange in there. And we got a little streaky one over here. If I had some red, and I do have red. I know I didn't put that in the, I didn't put it into the supplies list. But if I had a little bit of red, I would grab a little tiny bit. Or if I told you guys to use red or pink, I would grab a little bit of pink, maybe a little bit of red, swirl that in there as well, but very little, just to create some really cool effects in those clouds. Okay, so more lavender, more yellow. So grabbing lavender, grabbing yellow, mixing the two together. You can leave them a little swirly also. All right, we're going to come down here now. And your swirls can go, you can swirl it in the opposite direction too. There we go, another little cloud over here. Again, this cloud's off in the distance. A little bit transparent. I'm not too worried about making it super detailed. These are fun clouds to make because it doesn't require a lot of layering. Maybe now we've got one here on the horizon line, almost touching the raw water, or maybe it does. Okay. Where else? Where else? Okay, I think I'm done with the clouds on this. Maybe here we'll make this a little bit larger. Okay. Again, nothing fancy or too detailed about this. Okay. Nothing too, so let's say that we wanted to make more detailed clouds. I would actually wait for this to dry just a little bit, and then I'd come back and do the same thing with a slightly maybe lighter color. And just parts of the clouds would get covered in this new layer of paint that I would add, and that would start to define our clouds some more. I'm not worried about that. Okay, I'm not interested in making that kind of cloud for this painting, so we're going to leave that as is right now. What I am going to do is I'm going to take a little bit more white now. Oops, I got to make sure I'm grabbing only white. My paint palette's a bit of a mess. So I'm going to grab some white here. I'm going to bring it over here. Whoops, I did grab some blue. Look at that. Good thing I caught it. Oh, you know what? On the original, I've got some blue streaky lines in there, so it works out. So just in here, I'm just going to grab some of this blue, and I'm going to streak it in here just a touch. Happy little accidents. That's what Bob Ross would call that, I think. There we go. All right. I like that. What I wanted to do, let me clean my brush a little. Oftentimes people think, or people that don't have a lot of experience think that every single part of a painting is completely controlled. And you could go for that. You could try that. But, you know, more often than not, the vast majority of the times, you're going to have parts of your painting that are almost, you know, that happen by accident. You're not going for that particular look, but something happens, or particular blending that you weren't expecting happens, and you're like, oh, pretty cool, right? So not everything has to be controlled for. So what I'm taking here, I'm just grabbing some white, a little bit of paint, spreading it, just creating a lighter white area over here. And I've got, even though I cleaned the brush, I do have a little bit of the mixture that I used for my clouds in here. And it's okay. Some of it's coming through on and mixing in with the white. That's okay. That works. Like I said, not everything has to be completely controlled for. Part of the fun. You let things happen and you'll be pleasantly surprised more often than not, in my opinion. So just coming in here again, just streaking my sky a bit, creating some lighter areas up in here. There we go. Okay. So work on that for just a little bit. Okay. Work on that a touch. And then, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to grab a little bit of that white also. And I'm going to bring it up into my sky. Just a little bit. Just going to dip the tip point of my brushes. And I'm going to come up in here and kind of do that. I can use my finger to spread it across and blend it a little bit. Make it a little less, make it stand out a little bit less. I think that helps a little. Helps to blend it by using, you can use a paper towel also if you want to blend. Oftentimes you'll put a layer of paint down. You can take a paper towel and then just kind of lightly go over it. And what that does is it spreads the paint, making it a little bit more subtle. Won't stand out as much. Okay, so just coming in here and streaking some of this. There we go. So take a couple minutes on that while I look at your comments and see what's happening. Michelle DeLeve Silverman says, loving it so far. Awesome, Michelle. Glad to hear. Glad to hear. What's happening, Penny? Welcome back, Penny. Penny's in the house. Penny Cult. How are you? Now, Miana Hong says, love this. Awesome. Me too. Me too. Okay. You guys got about a minute. If you're falling behind or anything like that, don't stress. You'll be able to continue with a recorded session on this. It's a little over 4 o'clock right now. We've been at it for almost an hour. And we've covered quite a bit of ground, so I'm sorry if I'm swallowing in your ear. Got to keep my throat drying out on me. But okay. Michelle Steenberg. Hello again from Central Illinois. How's it going, Michelle? Thank you and welcome back. Okay, here we go. Let us continue. So, what I'd like to do next, and we can approach this. We can the next steps can vary a little bit. We don't have to follow this exact process. They're interchangeable a little bit. But because we're working with this little brush, a little square brush, I want to grab some white paint. Okay, again, I got to be careful. I'm not grabbing any of that blue underneath. I should just pour some more out. Let me do that because I'm going to accidentally grab some of that blue and then I'm going to be a little annoyed that I've got to clean it up. So let me go ahead and pour some of this out. I'm all about happy accidents, but I already know for this part, the next few steps, I want some pretty clean white for the most part. So just going to grab a little bit of this white paint. Don't need a lot. What I'm going to do is, let me move my plate over, is I'm going to come in here to the water. And I'm just going to start adding a few little streaks in here. Now watch what I do with my brush. Okay, I just I'm finding little areas, and I know, yes, we're going to come back and add more blue to this later and more details, but I'm finding little areas where I got some of the blue and the lighter blue, the edges. I'm just going to come in here and just put in a few of these. Just kind of follow. I can curve it a little bit. Okay, a little tiny bit. Okay. This isn't the only time we're going to be adding some of these little lines in the water. Just adding a few for now. Okay. Then I'm going to grab this little brush and kind of like what we did with the clouds right here on the edge. And start creating a little bit of this foam. Little sea foam. Right where the two edges meet. And they overlap a little bit. You can come into the sand a bit and you can go out into the water a little bit. We're going to refine this in a little while. Once this dries, we'll come back and add a little bit more definition in here if we need it. I'm not sure that we're going to need it yet, but so make kind of quick work of this. Again, the process is similar to what we did with the clouds. Now, if a little bit of blue or a little bit of the sand color starts to blend in with your paint, that's perfectly okay. For this step, no worries. Right along the edge here. Now, if you guys are watching this on a phone or a smallish tablet, this might be hard to see, right? And a lot of you guys like to watch this on a laptop or a TV. You stream this to your TV. That's the best way to do it, in my opinion, right? Because you get a really big screen. You see this on a very large screen. You're able to catch all the details. All the way across, both sides, both ways. Swirly action. Again, we'll come back probably with a smaller brush and add some detail to this if we need it. Okay, so there's that. Good, Vanessa. Ah, thank you, Wendy. I do appreciate that. Absolutely. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And you are very welcome. Okay, so again, little swirly lines. I'm going to give you a little bit of a close-up. Want to make sure you guys can all see that. The trick with water is the variation in there, right? There's all the variation, and the more of, it's layers also. It's a little bit of layering. It depends on the water look that you're going for. This is a semi-realistic approach, but there's also a little bit of impressionism in there. If you're familiar with the types of painting, with the painting types that are out there, just little tricks here and there that get you that really cool water look. I know some people struggle with that. Clouds too. I know people struggle with that. In the future, I will be doing, and I've talked about this a couple of times, a tutorial on how to make different types of clouds. Okay, I know clouds are big. Water, how to create, water. Those are all really, because they're really common themes in paintings. In popular paintings, people want to learn how to do that stuff. So in the future, I'll be adding some of those. But okay, what I would like to do now is I'm going to take my smaller square brush. Now you can do this with one of the round brushes also. Okay, one of the, like my number 3, and I notice it's a little bent. I think I bent the head a bit, so let me straighten that back out. So my little round brush. We're gonna create the moon here, or the sun. Sorry, this is actually a sun. It's sunset in my painting. So I know it's pretty white. It's a really, really light yellow is what it is, and so it looks white. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and create my sun. So I'm going to start with a little dot. Now, some people, what I like to do is I'll just place a little dot somewhere in the middle, right? So this is about middle of my canvas. And the reason why I start with a little tiny dot is, let's say that I'm not happy with that position. Maybe I'll look at it, I stand back, I look at it, and then I go, I need to move it over to the left, or I want it higher, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I can remove that very easily. Okay, so that's why I start with a little tiny dot first. Take a little step back. I'll look at it from a distance, and I'll go, okay. Even if I needed to move it over a little to the left, I don't have to erase it. When I start to make the circle bigger, I can just slightly favor the circle to the left. So now that sun starts, I can move the sun over a little bit. So from here, if you're going to freehand this, you could, I start doing little swirly lines. I swirl it out to the size that I want. For some of you, if you don't want to mess with that, you could take something like a water bottle cap, and it's probably almost the same size, almost identical. You could outline it first with a pencil or chalk and then fill that in. Okay, my sun is a little bit on the small side there. It's not a big sun, so I can use something small like a bottle cap. Anyway, so there's my center here. I'm happy with that. I'm just going to start swirling it. Now, this is always transparent. White is always transparent. It is up against a really light yellow background, so I won't notice how transparent it is very much. But all I'm doing is I'm slowly curving around the dot and making my sun a little bit bigger. It allows me to control the size. If I do the outline first, let's say I decide I'm going to make my sun. I'll do the outline for the sun. I might make it too big, and that's harder to fix. Okay. If I start small and slowly increase it, it just gives me a little bit more control. So all the way around, all the way around. Okay. We're getting there. This also allows me to control the curvature a little bit better because I'm swirling. It makes it so that it's a little more like a circle. And this might take a little practice, so you guys know what to do. Practice on a scratch piece of whatever you're painting on. If you got a scratch canvas somewhere, some old canvas or mixed media paper. But we slowly build it up to the size that we want. And that's pretty good right there. I like that. On the first layer, it's always kind of transparent. So don't worry about too much. If you see some of that yellow peeking through, just get your position, your shape, and then go ahead and paint it in. And then what we'll do is we're going to move on and do other stuff. This dries, then we come back and do another layer over the top. Okay. Once you're done with that, what you are going to want to do is you're going to come in here. Now, the reflection in the water, as you can see, it starts really narrow and slowly builds out. Okay. Same round brush. I'm going to spin the brush in the paint because I want the point to be really skinny. So when I press the brush into the plate like this, I spin it and pull away, and we get a nice little point. So up in here somewhere, I'm just going to start. I use my pinky here. I put it up on the canvas. This is all dry in here, so I can lay my finger there. Okay, and I use that to stabilize my hand. It also allows me to control the pressure of the brush against the canvas. So what I do is I just slowly do this. Start working my way outwards and down. Doesn't have to be one long connected line. It could vary a little bit. The only thing I got to be careful of is that I'm, staying directly underneath the moon. You don't want the moon to be here and your reflection to go off to the side like that, right? You'll always see a reflection. The reflection comes to where you are. It's almost like you're in the middle, kind of like the moon, right? You at nighttime when you see the moon, it looks like it's following you. Same thing with a reflection. It always looks like it's, your point of reference to it is directly in front of it. Anyway, so that moon, the reflection would be directly underneath it. So just moving down. Again, the line doesn't have to be completely connected all the way down. I'm just going to hold it up for a little bit. The lines can be thin, they can be small little ones, and just play with it a little. And slowly work your way down. I'm painting on an easel. I put my hand here on the table, put my painting hand over my wrist, and it stabilizes my hand. Instead of going like this with my pinky, I put it against the canvas. Okay, just get a little distance. And I know that's a lot wider down there. We'll make an adjustment here in a bit. Okay. So again, the trick is as you're getting close to the beach, it just gets a little bit wider. All right. Now I'm working my way backwards, making little adjustments as I go. Okay, remember the trick is stay underneath your moon. All right. Work on that for a little bit. We'll come back and make adjustments later once we've added more of the darker blues in there and maybe a few lighter blues in there as well. We'll come back and touch that up. So get a few lines of reflection down and work all the way down to the edge of the beach. And then, but don't spend too much time on it. We're going to come back and refine it in a bit. So got a lot to do with some of these other little steps. Actually, we don't have a lot to do, but some of these steps over here are kind of tedious. Like when we create all the little lines in our dandelion can be a little tricky. Also, little areas around the heart, the little sand around there, make it look like great. Somebody came in and drew those in the sand. Let me give you a close-up. Okay. Let's see here. Thank you, Scarlett. Very good. Amy Osborne, how are you? Yeah, it's been a little while since I saw you on here. Good to hear from you. Yeah, Gloria, the roses most certainly were difficult. The roses are tricky. So for some of you that are interested in learning how to create some roses, this is one of the more difficult. I'm going to zoom out just a bit. We got this painting tutorial. We did this about 3 weeks ago, I think, 2-3 weeks or so ago. The roses, these are impressionistic style roses, and there's a technique that I outlined in a tutorial. There's a pre-prep for this session. If you go back under the live tab, actually go back to the videos tab on the main Painting with Jesse here page here on Facebook. It's also on YouTube. You'll find the pre-prep for this painting where I teach you how to create this style of roses. Takes a little practice, but once you get it, you can create some really cool roses with that. Okay, but you can go back and look up that session, and you can have some fun with that. All right, let's see. That's okay, Penny. You know what you can do, Penny? If you'd like, this is a little bit cheating maybe, but I have an example. I moved it from the wall. I put it over on the other side of the room. You can actually take those artificial flowers from like Michael's or Hobby Lobby or one of those craft stores. You buy those artificial flowers and you can just glue them right on your painting. It actually is a pretty cool look because now the flowers stand off, they pop away from the canvas. So it gives it a really neat 3D effect. Or you could paint some flowers and then use those to fill in spaces. I do have a painting like that. I think I have a couple of paintings like that we did last year. A couple of paintings where we painted some flowers and then we took some artificial flowers and pasted them right on top. So that's a one way of doing it. But all right, everyone. What I'd like for everyone to do right now, take a little step back like I'm doing. Look at your painting from a distance. Okay, make sure you've got everything. You're not missing much. If it looks kind of like what mine looks like over here, you're okay. Just look at it, make sure you're happy with it. As far as things like proportions, we're going to start to refine this a bit. Okay, there's going to be a second layer of water that we'll be adding. Of course, we're going to be adding the little drawing for the roses. For the hearts. For those of you that are going to be doing hearts down in the sand, maybe yours only has one heart, right? Maybe yours has 3 hearts, 4 hearts. Who knows? One heart for each family member. I don't know. But what we're going to do right now is we're going to work on the stems for the dandelions. Yes, we have more paint to add to the water. We're going to do that afterwards. Okay, I'd like to get started. Well, let me put the view back. Okay, I'd like to get started on those dandelions. Okay, and I've got you can do the dandelions, the stems. We're talking about the stems right now with two different kinds of brushes. I've got an angular, a small 3/8 inch angular brush, which is really good for the stems. Okay, nice stiff bristles. It really helps making skinny stems. Or you could use a flat brush, either number 5, number 3, number 4. Any of those, either one of those will work. What I'll do is I'll make uh, each of the stems so I'll make one stem with this brush and I'll make another stem with this brush. Okay, so I've got black. Let me go ahead and put some black. Oh, actually, I already have it. I already have it on my plate. So my black here flows pretty nicely, but I am going to add a little bit of water to it. Okay, I want to make sure that I can draw really skinny lines with it, small lines with it. So I'm going to take some and I'm going to bring it over to a mixed plate. All this yellow in here is already dry, so I can put the paint right over the top of it. I'm going to take my brush and dip it into my water cup. I'm working with my angular brush first. Okay, I'm going to mix some of that water into my paint. A couple of drops of water. Don't need a lot, but the water really helps make the paint flow a little bit better, which is what we need when we're making skinny lines. Very important. So water, bring it over, mix it right into that paint. Again, do it a couple of times, 3 or 4 times. You don't want runny paint, so you don't want to mix so much water that the paint starts running down your plate, okay, or whatever it is that you're using to mix this on. And you can do that. You can hold up your surface like this. If it starts to run, then add a little bit more paint to it. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is this. I can use a really tiny brush for this part. And actually, I'll do that first, just to keep it safe for everyone. I recommend you grab one of your round brushes, a little pointy thing, and just like what we did with the sun. Dip it right into your paint, and then you're going to come over and you're going to find the middle, like the little center of the head of one of your dandelions. So I want one about right there. Okay. So I'm going to start with that. That there is somewhere inside here in the center of that dandelion. Now what I'm going to do, Deb Clark. Don't worry, Deb. Remember, you'll be able to come back and watch the recorded session of this. As soon as this is over, it gets saved right to the live archive, the live tab archive on Facebook, and it'll also be saved to YouTube. So if you're missing it, no worries. You're going to come back. You can come back and paint with that. Now, here's what I'm doing with my angular brush. I pick the paint, but I also press my brush up against the plate so that it thins out my edge. I want a really thin line. Now, I want this dandelion is going to end up over here somewhere, maybe right above the surface of the water. Not sure yet. Doesn't really matter too much. Now I take the longer point, the toe part. The shorter part is the heel side. The toe part is the pointy, longer side. I take the toe side. I'm going to start with that on the top. Now I put a little tiny bit of pressure on the brush to start. As I work my way down, I can start pressing down on the brush a little bit more. Whoops. There we go. I actually started to change direction on it because I wasn't thinking of going into the water here, but that's fine. That works just fine. So again, you light pressure at the top, you start to work your way down and you start to build the pressure a little bit, push down, push down, push down. And that starts to make a thicker stem as you come down. Okay. Now you can do that. Now you guys have all seen that dandelions have some really small stems, skinny stems, but we're really up close to them. Our perspective is almost like we're laying over here somewhere, and these dandelions are right in front of our face, and then we're seeing the beach kind of fall down in front of us a little bit. Kind of maybe there's a little hill, drops down, the beach is down there, but the dandelions are right in our face. Okay, maybe we're laying down on our stomachs, bellies, etc. We're having a picnic, but we just finished eating those tacos. that I'm supposed to be getting through Messenger here in a little bit. Still waiting for those, but just coming through here, and again, a little bit skinnier, skinny at the top, thinner at the bottom. Okay, and you can make them as big or as thick as you'd like. If I wanted to, I could also increase the thickness and make them a little bit more like the ones on the original. Okay. Now, so there's one stem. Now I'm going to switch over to my flat brush. I can use a number 5, which is what I'm using here in just a second, or I can use, number 5, number 3. This is a number 5, real similar. Water in my paint, scoop up a bunch of this paint. I'm going to use the skinny edge. Now this, let's make our dot. Where's this dandelion is going to be? I'm going to separate them a little bit. Let's go right here. So I can use a little corner to make my little dot. That's where I want that one. And this one is going to curve down. It's going to curve a bit, and it's going to end up over here somewhere. I'm actually going to mark it so that I can visualize where I want that dandelion to end up. So there's my dot. There's where I want that dandelion to go. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lift this so that it's sitting right on the edge of that of my canvas there. And here we go. So skinny, right? Skinny. Real similar. Start to press down a little bit harder. Broadens it out a bit. It's not as broad as I want it to be at the end. When it's the finished product. But I'm going to look at it and make little adjustments. A little thicker here. Okay. I want this one quite a bit thicker, so let's see. Okay, hand on my table. See, how am I going to adjust this? So we're going to go a little thicker. I slowly start to make it thicker, a little bit at a time. Don't want to move too fast on how thick I make it. In other words, I don't want to make it too thick too fast, because if I don't like it, that's going to be hard to fix. Removing all that black might be tricky. So a little bit at a time. There we go. Okay. Now I'm just going to look at it. Let me get a better angle on this. I'm over to the side, so it's a little tricky. So I'm going to make some adjustments over here. Okay, I'm placing my hand on the canvas. This is all dry. And we're just going to holding your breath a little bit while you do it does help. Or breathing very lightly, very shallowly or slowly. There we go. Little bit at a time. Okay. I'm pretty happy with that. So there's our stems. There's our dandelion stems. Absolutely, Julie. As soon as it's over, you can watch the recorded session on this, okay? You got it, Deb. No worries. You got it. But anyway, yeah, Julie, and anybody else that's interested, you can watch this later. You can watch the recorded version of this later. Okay, so give you a couple minutes on those stems. Again, if you want, practice on a scratch canvas or a scratch piece of paper. Skinny, start really skinny. Start skinny to begin with and slowly make it wider, especially at the base. You want to take a little time with it, right? Because if you make them too fat too soon, those are hard. That's harder to fix. You have to clean up black over the blue and the brown and everything else that we've got on the canvas, and that can be a lot harder to do. So skinny first, as skinny as you can make them. If you're newer to this, make them as skinny as you can possibly make them, and then slowly make them wider. Okay, make them a little bit thicker as you go. What's happening, Hannah? Thank you, Penny. Yeah, my little hat here. Figured I'd throw it on today. It's been a while since I used it. I think when I used to have a kids YouTube, just a kids YouTube, and I didn't do too many videos on there. It was an idea that I was playing with about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, before I started doing all my lives and everything else. But I used to wear this all the time. And then I did a few of the lives here on Facebook with my hat too. Next week, so let's talk about. Let's see. Next week we're doing this guy right here. Whoops! Almost knocked over a light bulb there. But we're doing this one next week. I do believe, if I'm not mistaken. Look at all that glitter. You guys see all that glitter on this? Look at that. Okay, next week. Then the following week, I'm going to give you guys a close-up of all of these, so you guys know what's coming up. Look at this glittery hummingbird. Now this one's quite a bit more difficult. Okay, I just want to let everyone know I will be teaching you how to draw this from scratch. And I know I promised this last week already, but I'm going to be providing a stencil for the hummingbird. Now I'm not sure how I'm going to do this because this requires a pretty large stencil. Might have to do it in two pieces, but we'll see. Anyway, look at all that glitter. Okay, that's 2 weeks from now. If I'm not getting my dates all mixed up, which I sometimes do. Then the week after that, our little sunflowers and bees painting. Okay. If you guys are interested in any of these events, if you go over to the event tab on the Painting with Jesse page, you're going to see all of the information there. And then 4 weeks from today, or 4 weeks from this week, hope that makes sense. 4 paintings down the road, we're going to draw and paint these awesome turtles. This one, they're all open to all ages, right? But this one's probably a little bit more kid-friendly if you have any kiddos that want to come and paint. Okay, so you guys can come on out. Also, folks, I haven't talked about it today. For those of you that are interested in helping support the page, there's different ways you can do it. But one of them is I do have a virtual tip jar. Okay, I've got a Venmo under Jesse Mendivil at Painting with Jesse. PayPal, all one word, Painting with Jesse. Okay, paypal.me/Painting with Jesse. And then I do have a Zelle, 951-217-2237. For any of you who would like to help in that way, it is greatly appreciated. And I'm putting up my details there on the bottom of the screen for those of you that might like to help out that way. Let's see. Anita says I'm a beekeeper, so I'm down for that one. Awesome. Awesome, Anita. That sounds pretty cool. Beekeeper. All right. I remember in high school, I did this experiment, the science experiment on bees for our science fair. And my brother was my helper. We got permission from this beekeeper that lived maybe a mile or so down from the house. I got permission to go do some science experiment on his little bee thing, bee boxes. And my brother was helping me. And he was my assistant. I was wearing a helmet, like a motorcycle helmet, big old jacket, gloves. He decided to come help me without wearing anything. Well, he got chased down by a bee for what seemed like a mile. One bee chased him it was probably more like half a mile because he kept running. But for a good while, I could see the bee trailing. It was the funniest thing ever, and I wish I had that on video because I'd be putting that on YouTube and everything else. Anyway, all right, let's look at our dandelion. Then let me change the screen on this. But anyway, that's our experience with bees. Okay, What we're going to do next is we're going to work on the dandelion heads. Okay. And what we're going to start with, one of our small little round brushes. Now, this is probably the trickiest part of the entire painting, but we're going to be working on these next few steps. So I've got my little round number 3. Okay, I'm going to grab some of my black paint. Okay, just going to scoop it up. Now, for this particular step, I don't necessarily need to add water to my paint. But we'll see. We'll see right now. Once I start, it's been sitting in my plate for a bit, so it's gotten a little bit thicker. But here, right at the head, I'm going to draw. Looks like a circle almost. So I'm actually going to start with a little bit of a circle, small one. And I'm going to paint it in. Okay. From there, though, I'm going to take just, again, the tip of the bristles. I'm just going to come around the outsides and just make these little tiny lines. They're real subtle. I'm going to give you guys a close-up. Looks almost like a cotton ball. Okay, that's going to be our start. And it doesn't have to be a perfect circle. It could be slightly ovalish, or, that's what we're going to start with. Now, and again, I just want to emphasize, it's just the very point of the bristles. I'm taking my brush, I spin it in my cup and my plate. What that does is it makes that point really, really skinny. Okay, now what I'm going to do, okay, is I'm just going to come out here and just select a few little spots where these little lines kind of pop out, kind of like that. Okay, that is our start. I'm going to do the same thing up here. So let's move to this other one. So again, we're going to start with a little circle. Doesn't have to be a perfect circle, like I said. Work our way around. Okay, kind of like that. Make the little lines that stick out. There's a little bit of a randomness to this, so again, use randomness to work in your favor. There we go. So take a moment on that. Let's build up. We're going to be building up our dandelions on this step. Yeah, it was pretty dang funny. Pretty dang funny. My poor brother, he didn't get stung. He didn't get stung, but he got a good scare. And then, of course, he didn't want to help me after that. Yeah, poor brother. He's about 1.5 years younger than me. So anyway, like I said, I wish I had that on video. All right. Thanks, Deb. Yeah, this is my little artiste hat that I sometimes wear. It's been a while since I wore it. I have a few of these, actually. I got a few of these guys. When I'm feeling a little artsier, maybe I throw it on. Just kidding. What about my apron, though? What about my apron? Feels like I'm wearing a dress. Look at this. Look at this thing. Feels like I'm wearing a dress. So I forgot to bring one for my studio today. Sorry, from home. Forgot to bring it to my studio. I usually have a whole bunch of them here, but took them home to wash. So anyway, but okay. So we got our dandelions there. Now what we're going to do, again, number 3 brush. You could also use the number 0 brush, a smaller one if it helps. For this next step, this is where it gets a little tricky. I am using the paint now that has the water in it. What I used, the same one that I used for the stems. Again, I'm still using the point of my bristles. We're only working in the white right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make these little lines coming out from my dandelion. Now, notice down at the bottom, they're not as long. They get longer here towards the top. It's just the perspective that we have on these. And they're not totally full. They've been blown away a little bit. It's a little windy on the beach this day. So, they're not as full as they normally are, but I take my hand, I'm going to put it here on my table. I'm just going to come up and starting around from the bottom, just light little lines. Actually, I can also use my finger, put it right on that canvas. Try not to block your view. So just going to come around like this, making little short lines. I'll give you a close-up in a bit. I know these are hard to see. We'll work our way around. And they get slightly longer at the top. Oh, back to my paint. Okay, that one's a little too thick. I don't want that thick. That's all right, though. We'll use it. We'll make it work. Short, long ones. So it looks like almost like we're making a firework, an exploding firework. All the way around, all the way around. I sometimes remind my brother of that story, and he just laughs. He shakes his head first, kind of blames me for it. Well, it is kind of his fault for not wearing any protection. I think I told him, you don't need anything. You're not even going to get that close. And then I had him do something up real close to the bee boxes. But okay, so that's what the shell of my first dandelion looks like. And I might come back and add a few more lines in there in a little bit, but that's what we're starting with. Okay, some of them are short. Whoops, that was a little thick, but some of them are short, some of them are longer. This is our little shell. Okay. All right, next one. Same thing, same process. Start at the bottom, come around again. Very important, spin your brush. Make sure that point is nice and skinny. Come around, underneath. Moral of the story. Wear your protection when you're going and playing around bees. Now, like I said, I was wearing a motorcycle helmet and a big old jacket and gloves. Okay, coming around. And I didn't get stung either. Right? We never got them mad enough, except for that one that seemed to chase, was like really intent on stinging him or getting him. So all the way around, real similar process, some short ones, some long ones. So watch, I put my hand right up on the canvas. Okay. So work on that for a moment. Yes, Anita, it would have been hilarious to have it on video. It would have been hilarious. It's one of the funny memories. And I have lots of them with my brother. I've always been a bit of a prankster, and my poor brother got a lot of hit with a lot of my pranks. But yeah, that's one of the hilarious memories. Yeah, you could just imagine I'm standing there in my motorcycle helmet. It wasn't. We used to have hay bales. We used to have horses, and so we had a bunch of hay bales, and so we used to have these gloves, right, to pick up the bales. So yeah, gloved up with my work gloves, motorcycle helmet, big old jacket. Anyway, and watching my brother running, I think my brother's wearing a t-shirt. I don't know. He wasn't wearing shorts, but might as well have been. But luckily, he was pretty fast runner. He was able to stay away from that bee. But all right, take a little step back. Look at your painting from a distance. Make sure that again, you're kind of here. This isn't. You can make little adjustments to your stems here on the head of the dandelion after we start to add some of our white parts. Okay. What I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to make a little bit of gray. I'm going to take some white and mix it with some of my black. So here on my mix plate, just making a light gray or dark gray. Make it a little darker. Now what I'm going to do with this, kind of similar to what we just did, just work my way around, making some of these, adding a little more density. Whoops, maybe a little lighter. Adding more density, but with gray stems this time. All the way around. All right, so again, just using this gray to add a little bit of density in between some of these black stems before we add any of the white. Okay, so it's trying to look fuller. Look at that. Might be hard to see the difference between the gray and the black ones, but they're there. Okay, so now we're going to do that to the other one. Don't need a lot of these. Just kind of be strategic, work your way around. And these are a little thicker now. These are pressing. I'm using the side, instead of using the point of the bristles, I'm using the side of the top to make them a little bit thicker. So I'm taking the brush and I'm pressing it like this. Okay. Yes, I'm using my hand there to demonstrate. But okay. I remember another time, my brother, we were roommates when we were in school, college, and he would work early a lot of times. He would wake up. He had to wake up like at 6 a.m. to go to work on the days that he worked. And one night he went to sleep probably about 10 o'clock. He liked to sleep, so he went to bed. You know what I did? I went and I changed the time on his clock, on his alarm clock. I changed the time so that it said 6:30 in the morning, after about an hour. So he had been sleeping for about an hour. I went and I changed the time so that it said 6:30 in the morning, and then I woke him up in a hurry. Alex, his name's Alex. Alex, you're late. Don't you have to be at work today? And he says, what do you talk? What? And he looks at his clock and he jumps up. Oh my God, I'm late. And he's freaking out. I waited till he got dressed. He got dressed like in about 2 minutes. Of course, he didn't shower or anything. He was just ready to go. I waited till he got dressed and I told him, wait, Alex, hold on. I'm just messing with you. I'm messing with you. You've only been asleep for about an hour. It's 10 o'clock. Oh, he was so mad. He was so mad because that boy loves his sleep. Anyway, like I said, my poor brother got pranked quite a bit. But okay, so work on your little gray areas, right? So a little gray, mixing some gray in there. So take about a minute or so on that, and then we're going to start adding some of the white parts, the little white heads on the top of those. Okay. Almost there. We're almost there. We're almost to the point where we do the hearts down here, and then we'll add our glitter, a little more detail in the water, and I'd say about another, it's 5 o'clock. We've been painting for almost 2 hours. So at least another 30 minutes, I'd say 45 minutes max. Okay. But take a minute or so now. We're going to add some white to the ends of our dandelions. Dots at the end of the lines, not yet. I haven't added any dots yet. It looks like some of them have little dots, but not yet. Okay. So there's what those heads look like right now. No, it does not. It does not matter as far as the glitter paint that we're using. I have a few different glitter paints that I use, but whatever you've got. I have a little bit of gold I'll be spreading on here. I have a little bit of blue I might be using. It's not quite the same as what I have on the original. The gold is pretty much identical to what I have on the original. But I'll show you guys. I'll show you guys the glitters that I've got. But okay, back to that round brush. Now you could switch over to a smaller, like the number 0 brush. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start with this. We'll see what they look like. I'm grabbing just white. Just white. Now up here towards the top, I'm going to start with this one first. I'm going to start with this one here. Let me grab my stool and bring it over. Whoops. Don't want to make a mess over there. This dandelion for the most part is pretty dry. This one is not, right? It's the second one that I did. So I'm just going to come over and towards the tops of some of these lines, some of these little dots, some of the lines that we created, I'm just going to come around and make. Now these little white dashes or dots, they don't have to be attached to anything. They don't have to be attached directly to anything. You see that one that's kind of free floating right there? As long as they're close, some of them are going to overlap, and some of them you're going to make down inside like this. Maybe the ones that are facing us are smaller. They're more like little dots like this. Okay. The ones that are pointing in this direction. But the ones that are towards the side or pointed away, take a little bit more. Okay. So you just kind of work your way around, different sizes. Some of them are long, some of them are short. Down here on the side, again, they don't have to all be connected to the end of one of those little black or gray stems that we made. Some of them you do put them on the little stems, some you don't. Give you guys another close-up in a moment. Mostly the point of the brush is what I'm using. Just work my way around. Now, some of you maybe have a different way of making dandelions, right? This is just one way. There are other types of dandelions that I'll make sometimes, and if you guys have a different method that you're happy with, please feel free to use that. Okay, now I'm going to take some of that white. I'll mix it with some of my gray, just a little bit. Gray and white. Now, they don't have to be fully mixed either. So it's slightly, you see a combination of both colors. You'll see the gray and the white. Again, just all the way around. Gonna have some of those facing. Again, if they're facing towards us, all you're gonna see is little dots. Okay, little tiny dots And you can see them more clearly there around the little black center. Those are the ones that may be coming directly at us. You're looking at them over the top. These are not anatomically correct dandelions. These are more impressionistic. Okay, so unless you're going for a really realistic looking dandelion, don't worry about that too much. And then just go around filling it in. Okay. Back to the white for the other one. A little bit of white. Come up. Again, some of these, what's a little thick, but that's okay. Some of these little dots can be free floating. Overlap. Some of these are just little dots. Like I said, I just want to emphasize some of them are just little dots like this. Okay. See if I can get it as close as I can. Okay. Some gray ones. Okay, let me take a step back, look at my handiwork from a bit of a distance, getting some tunnel vision action there. Okay, all right. So I'm going to make some of these a little bit longer just so that there's a little more dramatic, a little more drama. So I'm taking my brush, again, just the very point of these bristles, and I'm touch the canvas. A little too long right there. Settle down, Jesse. Getting a little too excited. So just touching the canvas, pulling away, touching the canvas, pulling away. Okay. Going back to my other one. Kind of same situation. All right. You can take a step back, look at them, see if you need to make adjustments or add more lines to them. I'm going to take a little bit of black now and maybe make the centers a little bit. Just going to add some lines down in the center that just kind of reach around or reach outwards. More stems, make it look like it's a fuller dandelion. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing to the other one. Just taking just the very point of my bristles of my brush. making things a little fuller. More stems coming out from the center. Okay. All right. I think that's it for my dandelions. You got it, Anita. You got it. My pleasure. So work on those for a little bit. Now, even if you're not done with your dandelions, it's okay. I mean, to be honest with you, I would, even with my painting, I would step away and I can come back to this whenever, today, later today, tomorrow, the next day, and I can look at it and go, oh, okay, and I can add some more touch-ups and further refine it, okay? So whatever you've got on your dandelions, take about a minute to to just kind of clean things up on your painting. We're going to come down here to the sand here in a moment. Actually, no, before we do that, we're going to add some detail to the water. Then we're going to move into the sand to add the hearts down there for those of you that are going to do it. And let me take my my little banner there at the bottom off so that, there we go. I'm going to need that area down there. Okay. Let's see, Anita, when I did it on a kindness rock, I tried to put little asterisks instead of dots on the ends. So much easier doing it with dots. So the little asterisks, right, are more realistic, right? Because that's what you got. If you look at the end of your of any dandelion, they're looking like little stars or little asterisks on the very ends. That's much more realistic. This is a much more impressionistic style, but those are fun to do too. I've done some paintings in the past where we did that with the little, more details on the outside of those dandelions, and they come out really, really nice. But there's more steps to that. They can come out more realistic, but yeah, that's more complicated for sure. But okay, everyone. So we're gonna add. Again, don't stress, folks. If you're not done with your dandelions, take your time. Don't forget, if you're not done with them, you can come back and paint with the recorded session of this. We're going to move on to the water. We're going to add more detail to the water to make it just a little bit more defined. I'm going to take my number 5 flat brush. I'm going to clean it up. Okay, actually, no, you know what? I'm going to take my big number 1, the one we started with, this big guy. It's going to sit in my water cup. Now, this is what I was talking about earlier. With my really good brushes, what I like to do, now these are just good, decent brushes, but I like to have a bin. Once I've rinsed them out a little bit in my water cup, I'll take them and put them in the bin so they're laying sideways like this. This keeps there from being too much pressure. If they sit like this for long periods of time over session after session after session, with the weight sitting up against the bristles, it can bend them a bit. It can damage them over time, and they won't be as nice to use. So what I do is I just do this. Once I rinse them out in my water cup, there's water in here. Now, a tin like this isn't ideal unless you're cleaning it out every day because it will rust. But this helps preserve your brushes for a long time, for longer, okay? But anyway, back to my big brush here. I'm just going to pour out a little bit more blue paint onto my plate here. Don't need a lot, but good little gob there. I'm going to take some of this blue right here. I'm just going to dip my brush right into it. And I'm going to come in here and start to add some of this. Now watch what I'm doing. I'm using the flat edge of the brush, the skinny part, and I just kind of move around. I want a little bit of variation in this. There's a bit of randomness to this so that some parts of my painting are getting a thicker layer of paint and other parts of it are getting a little bit of a thinner layer of paint. Okay, just coming through here, and those lines that we created earlier, I just paint around them. Okay, I can just I can kind of use those. I come right up to them and work my way around them. Play with this a little bit. Down in here. Coming around the other side of my tree. Over here. And there is a little bit of a randomness to this, and not every single part of my painting is getting a real big gob of the paint. In some areas, I've just used a little bit of it. I thin it out. Again, it's little subtle variations. Now here in between where I did the reflections, what I'll do, and if you have to switch over to a smaller brush to do this, please do so, whatever you're comfortable with. I just kind of paint a little bit in between my lines, those reflection lines. I'm not covering them. I might overlap them a little bit here and there, but for the most part, I'm just painting around them. So these waters are pretty still for an ocean, but you know they're calm waters, but there's still movement in them, right? So these lines are kind of long and smooth. If I wanted choppy waters, I would make really short, slightly more curved lines upwards. This is a serene setting. Pretty day at the beach. And then here, I have very little paint on my brush now. Just using the little bit that's on there. And because there's less of it, it's more transparent. Okay. Now what I'll do is I can take one of my round brushes. I'm going to take I'll take my number 1. Okay. Let me remove all that extra water that's in there. Even though I'm going to, whoops, I lost the head. Sometimes the head on these fall off, but let's tighten that back up. So just going to take a little bit of white. Grab some white, move it over to my mix plate. Okay, don't need a lot of paint for this, just a little bit. Now I'm going to take my brush, I dip it in my water. My water's a little cloudy and dirty, right? It's got all kinds of paint in it, but I only take a couple little drops. Doesn't make a big difference in the color of my white paint. Now what I'm going to do. Now you do need plenty of water in this, just as long as it's not runny. Again, I'm using just the very tip of my bristles here. I'm going to come in here. Now there's all these little areas in between. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So in my paint, when I did the brush strokes, like little areas like that where it's 2 different colors, see where two colors meet, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to accent those little areas. So for example, I wish I could do this holding the canvas and the brush at the same time, but my hands will be too jittery. So for example, right in here where these 2 colors meet, there's a darker blue and a light blue. I just come in and add a little tiny light accented line in there, like light's reflecting. There's something like a little tiny wave that's forming there where those 2 colors meet. The light's reflecting a little differently on those 2 areas of the water. And right where those 2 are, there's a little tiny line of white. You just randomly go through there and do that here and there. Not every single one of these has to have one. Just kind of, pick your spots. Pick your spots. That's what I'm trying to say. Some of them are really skinny. Some of them are really short. Some of them are a little longer. Right where 2 colors meet. And sometimes, they're a little bit rounded, right? They do this. They go. Okay. Here towards the front, you can make them a little bit thicker because they're closer to the shore. They're closer to us, whoever's over here hanging out. They look a little bit bigger, especially here along the edge where the water's breaking on the shore. Take a little bit more paint, make it a little thicker. Now here I got a little bit of a gob of paint on my brush. And I'm just going through. And they're also here. Some of these waves, these little waves are beginning to break on the edge of the shore. So they're just a little bit thicker. Here's a little close-up of all of that. Yeah, I've got lots of kids painting events, lots and lots of kids painting events. If you go to this question is from Deb. If you go to the main Painting with Jesse page here on Facebook, go to the top. There's a tab that says live. Click on that. And so I've got I'm going to say about 90 to 95 paintings in there now from the old sessions that we've done throughout the past year. I just turned a year. April 22nd was a year anniversary of the first live session that I had. And over the course of the year, I did about not quite half, but close to half of them are kids videos, more kids centric. Anybody could do them, right? There's a lot of fun ones for all ages, but if you're looking at ones that are more kid friendly ones, a little easier, a little less detail, you would go there. And I have a lot of them on YouTube also, on the Painting with Jesse YouTube page, but most of them are on, all of them are here on Facebook. Okay. So again, I'm just kind of going through and adding these little lines in the water, and we're almost done here. We're about ready to start working on that sand. Now, if you wanted to, and I did this on the original, but I didn't want to add too many steps, you could take a little bit of green, mix it with some blue, almost any green. Mix it with a little bit of your blue to create kind of an in-between, kind of an aqua color, and find little areas where these highlights are in the water, and just add a few little strokes of that. You would do it in a similar fashion. You would take one of your flat brushes and using just the very point of the bristles, you'd add some of these, a little bit of that aqua color, kind of like that tealish blue, and add it in between here and there. It would make a really cool reflection. I added some of those in here, but again, I didn't want to make this too lengthy of a video. So, but you would do it exactly like what we did with the blues. Take a few little spots and change them to that slightly teal color, and that makes for a really nice contrast in that water. Okay, but all right. Take a little step back, look at your painting. Make sure you're not missing anything. And again, if you're behind, don't stress too much. No big deal. I'd love for everybody to finish with me right now, right? With everybody finished together, but we could take a really long time with this, 4 or 5 hours even if we really wanted to. All right. Okay. You guys got about a minute? Then we're going to move on to making little hearts in the sand. What's happening, Heidi? Thank you for stopping by. Heidi. Are you just stopping by, or are you painting also? Looks like you got another East Coaster on here, Anita. Anita from Cape May, New Jersey. Awesome. Hi, Kenzie. Hi, Kenzie. I'm glad you're here. We're painting dandelions today. For sure. Fantastic. Okay, everyone. So, we're gonna do a little bit of painting hearts in the sand right now. So one of your small brushes, I'm gonna go with the little number 0 round brush that I just used to work on the water. Okay, I'm gonna clean it up because it's got some white in there. I want to remove the white. Now I'm going to take, let's see here. I'm going to take my raw umber, this really dark brown that I've got over here. I'm gonna add a little bit of water to. Actually, I'm gonna bring it over to the mix plate, to one of my mix plates. I don't need a lot of this. Bring it over here. A little more than that. Okay, bring it over. Now I'm gonna take some water. I'm dipping the brush in the water because I'm drawing really thin lines with it. The water helps. Helps me make those really skinny points, really skinny lines. So add enough water to make the paint really flowy, really smooth, but not runny. Not runny. Okay. You could draw your hearts first with a piece of chalk or pencil. Okay, up to you. Chalk helps. I'll show you really quickly for those of you that aren't familiar with how chalk could, I was going to say should, but could make things a lot easier. Chalk is really easy to erase. So if, let's say that I do one of the hearts, it might be a little hard for you to see this. I'm going to try and make it nice and dark. Okay. Let's say we got one of the hearts right there. I don't like it. I want to erase it. I could take a piece of paper towel with a little bit of water in it and wipe it right off. Gone. Okay. So chalk is excellent to do this with. Pencil is also good, but not as good as chalk. So, but don't worry about that. If you want to use chalk, absolutely. If you got some chalk there at home, use your chalk. I'm going to go ahead and draw these with my paint. Okay. It doesn't matter which one I start with. Now you notice the hearts are a little bit scrunched up. Okay, a little scrunched up, meaning from our perspective. So if you imagine we're over here at a distance looking at these hearts from a distance, they're going to look foreshortened. They're going to look shortened like this, right? Perspective is across, like from this angle, like that. If we're up close to them and above them, they might look like, much taller hearts. But remember, just the tip of the bristles helps make really nice skinny lines. You come over to the other side. This heart, the little point starts over here somewhere. They overlap, same thing, nice and kind of foreshortened. There we go. 2 little hearts in the sand. Now, holding my breath. I'm holding my breath. Okay. If you did this one with paint and you don't like maybe this, I feel like needs to be corrected a bit. A little bit of water on my paper towel. I just come over and lightly go right over the top of that. Okay. I could remove. I'm also removing a little bit of the paint underneath, but that's okay. We'll fix that in just a bit. That's why it is preferable to do this with chalk or pencil. Chalk, though, is my number one for doing drawing on a painting. Okay. Now, before I do anything else to this, I need to let this dry a little. But instead of waiting for that to dry, or you could wait around for it to dry and then move around and make adjustments, touch-ups here and there. I have a handy blow dryer that I'm about to use here. Okay. I'm doing the rest of the painting really quickly so that when we add glitter, I'm not having to deal with paint putting glitter over wet paint. Get all fancy with this, fancy. All right, enough of that, Jesse. Okay, so now that this is all dry, all this in here should be dry. Do a quick test here, make sure. I could take a lighter mixture of paint, lighter than this, and come around and add the little sand, little hills of sand around my hearts. Okay, so a little bit of yellow, a little bit more yellow this time, a little bit of that burnt umber. I'm going to go back to the burnt umber. Let's see, one of my flat brushes. We'll start with. Ooh, where'd you go? Where'd you go? Oh, there you are. Okay, my little number 3. No, that's not it. What did I do with it? There it is. Okay, so my little number 3. So yellow. Okay, some of the burnt umber. So the color that I used originally in my sand mixture, just a little bit though. Very, very little. Just to tint it a little bit. Okay, and then, okay, now a little bit of paint on the brush. Don't need a lot. On the edges. So I'm going to grab a little bit more and maybe I might have to add a little bit of white to my mixture. Once you start to put the paint down on the sand next to your heart, you'll see if you want to be able to have a good contrast between your background and that color that you just created. If you need more contrast, you could add a little bit of white, a little bit of brown. I would prefer lightening it up though, making it lighter. Leave it a little bit swirly so that you don't have one solid color. Okay, and then here we go. There we go. That's a little better. I like that. On the original, it's a little bit more yellow. That's okay. Now what I'm doing here, let me give you guys a close-up. You see this here? On this edge, we're just going in different directions, right? They padded the sand. They padded the sand. Maybe they first did a little hill all the way around the shape of the heart, and then they carved it in the center. Okay. Almost looks like hands, like people are in there with their hands. Okay, you see that already? Gives our heart a little bit of depth. Then over here on this side, same thing. I'm going to come around. Same process, using the different parts of my brush. I turn it, I use the corner, I use the flat part. Just varies a little bit. And you're not going to do this to both sides of the heart. So on this side, I only have it over here. I don't have it on the right side. Over here, from our perspective, we're looking at things from our perspective. What are we going to be able to see when we're looking down at the heart? Okay, so we can see this bottom edge also. Okay, over on this heart also. Going to grab a little bit of both the yellow and the white just to make, and then I'm going to make this a little bit, my paint a little bit thicker. I want a little bit more paint on my brush when I do this. Again, I'm turning the brush as I go around. I'm turning the brush using different parts of the brush for this. I don't want the brush strokes all nice and even. So I'm turning the brush as I go. Now you could have done this probably if you just, with just yellow. Again, you want a color that contrasts against the color of your sand. That's the main thing. But it has to also make sense, right? You wouldn't use, for example, black in this case. You have to use a color that that works with your sand. Now, if you're using a dark color sand, like like a black sand beach, a little different. Maybe gray would work. Just coming back over to the other side and adding more paint to this first area. What I'm doing is I'm making it, that first layer wasn't thick enough to make a big difference or a big impact, so I'm just making it a little bit thicker. Thicker meaning the layer of paint is a thicker one. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I got the area around it painted in. I'm going to take the same color. I'm just going to remove some of it from my brush. I want very little of this on the brush. Now I'm just lightly going to go over the top. Oops, a little too much. I'm going to remove some of the sharpness of the dark outline of the hearts. Excuse me. So I just lightly add some of this paint color that we just mixed. Some parts of this. Excuse me. I'll take a little drink of water here in a moment. But what I'm doing is I'm basically making it so that the outline of the hearts isn't so prominent. It doesn't stand out as much. It's sand, right? So there's very little paint on my brush. There we go. And then once this dries, I could come back and add another little layer around here, around the edges, parts of it anyway, to make things pop a little bit more. What I mean by that is, let's pretend that this is it's a little dry. I can come in here, just made more of the mixture, made it a little thicker, and then I'll just come in here in certain parts of it. This will work better when it's dry. This adds a bit of a variation. It makes it look like, somebody was in there and made this. If it starts getting too much, you could use your finger or take a little paper towel. This is dry, I don't have anything on it, and just blot some of these little sections. Okay, there we go. Something like that. Kinkini, how's it going? You painted the sloth, huh? Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Welcome to the page today. Glad you're here. Charlene, sounds awesome. Oh, cool. You also painted the gnomes, huh? The little gnomies. So cool. So cool. Yeah, definitely, Anita. That chalk is a big big difference. It makes a humongous difference. So I'm going to reach around here to the other side of my table and grab my glitter paints. Give me just a moment. They're a little too far to me to do for me to do it with my mic on. So give me a moment. This is why I need give me a wireless one. Gonna move my paints out of the way. In a moment, I'll take a step away from the painting and look at it from a distance. Make sure that I'm not missing anything. Sometimes I like to forget steps. Here and there, I'll forget a little step, and somebody reminds me, "Hey, Jesse, you forgot this." But hang on one second. Okay, I'm back. Put my mic on. So, glitter paint. For those of you that are not familiar with it, it is really awesome. It really helps to make things stand out. You can use it to cover up areas that you don't necessarily like. And before you know it, your painting looks amazing. Okay, hold on one second. Almost there. And just to give you, I think I already showed you how cool this looks up close, but just to give you an idea what glitter can do, here is, let me see. Look at this Mother's Day tulips. Mother's Day tulips that we're going to be doing next week. Okay, there's glitter on the heart, a little bit of glitter on the heart, but mostly it's on the flowers and on the stems and leaves. Okay, so makes a big difference. Like I said, you can use it to cover up areas that you're not necessarily too keen on in your painting, but beyond that, it just really does make a really beautiful finish. It gives some areas lots of pop, and you can use glitter. Some people like to use glitter all over the place. I like to do a more controlled. Excuse me, gonna go across my camera here. Do a more controlled. Sorry, some people like to use glitter everywhere. They just cover everything up with glitter. I like to have a little bit more control. I apply it to areas that I want to pop. For example, in a tree, let's say you did a bush or a tree and you got a bunch of leaves everywhere and you want your tree to have a little bit more depth. You can use the glitter on some of the leaves. You just kind of randomly select leaves to put glitter over and you're painting now. So now that tree has a lot more depth to it. Okay. Just pouring out some of the glitter paints that I've got. So here's one that I've got. One brand. I think I picked this up maybe at Walmart a long time ago when I was in a hurry. I was doing a painting event and I needed glitter paint. I'd run out of my gold, so I had to pick some up. But I think I got this at Walmart. Really, I don't remember the price. I don't have the price on here anymore. But something like this might run around $4. And all these are is glitter bits floating around in a type of glue. So then I got this one. This is a Glitterific brand, pearl crystal glitter. This one's a little more expensive. I picked this one up from Hobby Lobby, and this one tends to be a lot thicker. Let me put that facing upside down for a moment while I let that settle down to the top. Settle down to the top. Does that make sense? Here's some blue. Okay, this is the same brand, Glitterific. These are about $5 at Hobby Lobby. You can get them online. Amazon has them. But there's some blue, really, really nice colors. These are bigger, chunkier glitter bits. I haven't stocked up on my favorite brand. I have a brand that I like to use called Craft Twinkles, and I pick it up at Michael's. Again, you can also order it online. That's my favorite brand to use in this stuff, but these are pretty awesome too. So I just spread out a few different colors there. I like to match colors when I use my glitter. For example, the gold I can use. If I wanted to use some in the sand, I could. I'm not going to use that there. I'm going to use it in the yellow areas of the sky. Okay. I'm going to use the blue in my water, and I'm going to use this here, this crystal stuff. Oh, I can use it up here, and then I can also use it in the dandelions. And what you do with this stuff is you want to make sure your brushes are clean, free of any wet paint, very important. And you want to add it to the areas that are already dry. So if anything's wet on your canvas, you don't add any glitter to that until it dries. And then secondly, you want your brushes to be free of any wet paint, because same thing. It'll mix in with your paint. The paint will mix in with your glitter and it'll dull it. It'll smear it. It just won't look as nice. Okay. And here I'm going to put up, for those of you that are interested, just in case again, putting up my tip jar information there at the bottom of the screen. We're almost done here. Okay. I'm going to go over the paintings. Actually, no, we already did a couple of times. I don't think I need to go over them again, unless somebody asks me to. If you guys want to see the paintings that we got coming up over the next few weeks, let me know, and I'll hold them up before the end of the video. Okay. So I'm using my number 5 flat brush, just going to scoop up this chunky paint right here. I'm going to use this in my water. Okay. Now watch what happens. I'm going to be selective here. I'm just going to pick maybe the darker areas of the water. We'll see. We'll kind of watch what happens as I start to do this. And straight on, it's difficult to see the glitter, so I'll hold it up in a moment and turn it to the side so that it reflects the light a little bit better for the camera. But basically, I'm just going through and adding this glitter. It's kind of random, but actually not so much so random. I'm looking for the darker areas of my painting. Okay. The Craft Twinkles is what I used here on the original. They're smaller bits, like I said. I don't have any of that glitter with me right now, so this is what we're using. But look at the difference. Okay, look at that. Look at that water. Okay, look how that water really, really pops now. So the water has some there. This side does not. Okay, really big difference. You could use this, like I said, you could use this to cover up areas that you don't like too much. You can use this to create depth and a little bit of dimension, but mainly you use this to embellish, to accent, and really make something stand out. This glitter stuff can be a game changer for lots of paintings, especially the festive ones, more festive, more during the holidays, right? Things like Christmas and even like on St. Patrick's, Cinco de Mayo, you can really have fun with this stuff. But for my painting events, my in-person painting events, or my live sessions, I like to use this stuff because it just makes a lot more fun. But here down in the front, you can also make little streaky lines. But again, look at that. Starts to really make a difference. You got it, Lynn. My pleasure. I'll have, so the video will be, oh, let's see. Oh, yes, please. I forgot, folks. Please send me your pictures when you're all done. Send me your masterpieces. If you're on YouTube, send them to me. Send me your pictures and your paintings when they're all done to paintingwithjesse@gmail.com. Paintingwithjesse@gmail.com. When you're, if you're on Facebook, send them to me via Messenger here on Painting with Jesse. Of course, Messenger on Facebook. Okay. So here, what I'm doing is I'm taking some of the gold, and but thank you, Lynn, for reminding me. Okay. What are you saying, Anita? I'm a retired early ed teacher. We are not friends with glitter. Got you. Yeah, not the. I think this stuff that's floating in the glue makes it so much easier. We're not talking about that. The loose glitter. I know that can be tough to work with. Gets into everything, right? Nooks and crannies. And I do mean everywhere. So I'm taking some of the gold stuff and just applying it up in here in the sky. Now I could cover every bit of my sky in this gold stuff, but I'm just going to put it in these areas down in here. Now you can also layer your glitter. Once this layer dries, I can come back and add another layer to the top. You know what we did forget, or what I forgot to add another layer of white to my moon. I'll get to that right before we're done. If I wanted to, I could come in here in my sand and also add some little bit of glitter here and there. Okay. Not going to do it though. Not going to do it. I'm going to take some of my pearl glitter and I'm going to bring this up to my sky up in here in the purple area. How cool is that? Very cool. Very, 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 very cool if you ask me. I could also take this and streak it down in here if I want. I'm not going to do that. Okay, just showing you what you can do with this stuff. Now I'm going to take my number 3, my little number 3 brush. Dip it right into here. Now I can take some of this and dab it in my dandelions. So the craft twinkles, the smaller glitter bits work better for this part right here because these are really small sections. These little tiny areas of white and gray and black. There we go. This is working. Just had to find the way. Got to find the way. We're almost done, folks. We're almost done. Bear with me a little bit. I'll show you guys. You guys don't need me to go over that white, the moon. You guys already know what to do if you don't want to make the video too much longer. Actually, you know what? I better. Otherwise, I won't do it. I'll forget to do it on my own. And then not only that, but I think let's finish it. All right. That is super cool now. It's subtle, but look at those dandelions. Look at those. I'm not sure how well you can see them in the image, but look at that. Awesome, Joanne. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Folks, don't forget, if you haven't followed the page, both Facebook and YouTube, please do so. Share with your friends when you post your videos. It's greatly appreciated if you give my page, a like, a share. Also, if you guys could go and review my page on Facebook, that would be fantastic. Give my page a little review. Okay. But all right, let me take a quick moment to where'd the rest of my white go? I'm just gonna take my brush here and add another layer of white over the moon, over the sun. Sorry, keep calling it moon because it's white. Actually, on the original, it's just a really off. It's like more of a really, really light yellow. But I think this still works for a sunset. But okay, that is the end of that. The very last thing that I would do, two things. I would sign my piece, even though I didn't sign the original. I would sign it. Then I would flip it over and I would paint the bottom edge of my canvas this color. Okay, we're not going to do that right now. Not necessary. That's easy to do on your own. So let's get a little close-up of everything. Look at that. Look at all that glitter. Look at that shiny. Pretty, 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 pretty. Okay, my friends, my art people, my artistes, wherever you guys are joining from, I really appreciate it. Please don't forget, send me pictures of your masterpieces. I really would love to see those. I like to share those with my followers. That way they all get to see the variety of skill and tastes, creativity, etc. that we have on the page. On top of that, I think everybody likes to kind of see what everybody else did. Even if, let's say, you did this painting, when you see what other people did, you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. You know what I'm saying? Everybody ends up with something different and unique, and it's really fun to see that. So thank you so much. I appreciate you guys being on here. Please do not forget to also, if you guys think anybody would appreciate following along with these tutorials, got a lot of them, please share the page, invite your friends. Also, if you're interested in helping support the page, it is greatly appreciated. The virtual tip jar information is there at the bottom of the screen. It is also in the description of this video. Okay, if you guys are interested, go check that out. And yeah, you can use PayPal, Venmo, or Zelle. But all right, Sue. Bye-bye, Sue Kripe. Kinkini, you got it. My pleasure. Anita, you're very welcome. Deb, you are very welcome. Kinkini from Perth, Australia. Thank you for joining us from all the way over there. Because the full moon tonight is super white and bright tonight, says Anita. I'll have to check that out. A dolphin. We might have to do a dolphin. We haven't done any dolphins on here yet, I don't think. No dolphins yet. We've done some, I think we did a shark. We've done, maybe a shark. Yeah, we've done a shark, a killer whale, a couple of killer whales. Octopus, but no dolphins. How weird is that? Okay, bye, Sue. All right, everybody. Thank you. Have an awesome evening, rest of the evening or day, wherever you are. I think in Australia, it's probably late morning, maybe, if I'm getting my time zones correct. But let's see, somebody's asking something about paint parties. Where did I see that? I missed the comment. Hold on one second, everybody. Wendy March, bye-bye. You got it. My pleasure. Can we use your page for our paint parties, Jesse? Send me a message. We'll talk about it. Okay, send me a message. I want to see what you do and stuff like that. Yeah, send me a message. Okay, we'll talk. I usually say okay to things like that, but just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Okay, but all right, everyone. Thank you. Have an awesome rest of the day, evening, etc. We'll see you guys next week. Okay, don't forget, next week, more fun.